Live from the world's center of racing, we welcome race fans one and all to a true spectacle. It's at a track we all know and love, with the length we all know and love. It's a rendition of the Great American Race. This is the 4th annual Cyber 500. Hello one and all, and welcome to Green Flight TV. My name is Lorenzo. Alongside DJ Clark together, we are bringing you all of the coverage from 200 laps around the Daytona International Speedway. DJ, it is of course a big day for the Cyber Thunder Racing League. This is their biggest event of the year, 500 miles around one of the most famous racetracks in the world, and you know for a fact that means we are in for a fantastic show here today.
Yeah, it certainly does, Nolan. This is going to be a race of endurance, as it always is when you go racing for 500 miles around Daytona. It's going to be a situation where you've got to get yourself into position for the last 20 laps of the race. Watch for a lot of fast drivers to hold back, to be a little bit cautious as they bring themselves forward. I don't think we're going to see all that much craziness here early on, but it is going to be a fantastic race nonetheless, one where strategy is going to be the biggest key of the day.
And that's going to be the big talking point, I think, all throughout this afternoon, is going to be the strategy game, right? That is always how these races are won and lost, with the strategy. It is more critical at super speedway racing than any other type of racing that you can get on the ovals, because unlike at a lot of other ovals, if you pit out of sequence here at Daytona, you're losing the draft. That means you're losing the lap if you don't get a caution in a hurry. Those cautions themselves can throw a lot of wrenches into the works, especially if you get one that happens right in the middle of a pit stop window.
Yeah, exactly. If you get that into the middle of a pit stop window, that's really going to throw you for a loop in the way things are going to go. We're going to see a lot of changes on the fly to this strategy for these drivers. They're going to be hoping that they've got everything planned out, but you've got to always be loose. You've got to be willing to absolutely roll with the changes here at Daytona. It is going to be a little bit hotter on the track. That's going to change things up. 93 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface right now. That's not going to be the best thing that drivers are going to want to see. They're certainly going to want a little bit less than that to be running around here. It's going to be a little bit more difficult, I think, for them to try to get themselves into position. With that, that may make tire wear a little bit more of a strategy item than we normally talk about over the course of a Daytona 500.
And I think the tires are going to be one of the more interesting things to keep an eye on throughout the course of this race as well, because there are unlimited tire sets for this race. But the key thing that's important to note is the fact that when it comes to tires, I don't say it helps overall pace, but it helps your control, right? Being able to have that control coming off these corners can be super critical. It helps prevent those checkups. But it is definitely a possibility that some drivers could double stint, possibly triple stint the tires. Sometimes you'll see drivers come down on the green flag stops and only take left sides, because the lefts tend to matter more than the right for once.
Yeah, they certainly do. With the speeds that you're traveling here at Daytona, those left side tires, you need that grip to be able to get the rotation through the corners so that you're not going to be drifting up off the circuit nearly as much. So you've got to be careful about that as things continue to go. But we are going to be excited to see how this race is going to play out. I, for one, am very, very excited. We've got some big names. We've got some unknowns coming in here at this point. It's going to be a very interesting race to see who's going to be able to get their way to the front. And once again, who's got the patience to be able to let this play out?
One of the drivers that I'm looking at coming on over into this race here this afternoon is going to be your pole sitter, Gary Bowman, primarily because he has so far been dominant over the course of the week. Of course, last Sunday on pole day, put down the pole time, but only by 1,000th of a second over Cody Richardson. It was a 49.351 to a 353, so actually 2,000th of a second. And then, of course, won his dual race as well, and that sets him up for that pole spot down on that inside line. But Cody Richardson himself is not a driver to shrug off, again, winning his own duel by only 1,000th of a second. So it seems like photo finishes and tight gaps may very well be the talk of the day when we get down to those final 50.
Yeah, it very well may be. You've got to be able to have the patience to let this thing play out. You've also got to have the tenacity to be able to fight when push comes to shove at the end of the race. It's a little bit of back and forth in that. This is a waiting game, but this is also going to be a game where you've got to be able to push when you need to push. It's all about that back and forth, as we like to say.
the back and forth ever going to be a present talk throughout the course of this race? And I know you and I, we were actually talking earlier on about some other Daytona 500 renditions that we've seen over the course of the last week or two. And you were mentioning that with the race that you had less than 12 hours ago at this point, they found themselves with that outside lane being the predominantly fast line, at least in the early run. But just as so often does, it would fade back towards the middle of the pack. And I'm willing to bet we're going to be seeing something similar, right? The outside's going to be really fast, but they're going to be forced to fade back and drop to the bottom, especially when you get around to that pit stop window.
Yeah, exactly. The pit stop window here is going to be key. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out over the course of the running. The fast lane is the high lane early on is what it seemed like, and that's partially due to, remember, the oval refresh that iRacing has put in here at this point, that is going to change things up a little bit and the way that it goes. The oval refresh kind of updating the way that the ovals act in terms of the way the grip forms around the circuit. So depending on how that goes, that could change things up. It could make things very, very different in the way that we see things play. High lane looked strong early on, then it was the low lane that came in a little bit later in the race, but that may just have been in the session that I was in. I wasn't seeing track temperatures nearly as high as this, so we don't know what that's going to be like here today for these teams and drivers.
No, we certainly do not. It's a lot of unknowns entering this race in action here today, and one of those unknowns is, of course, going to be who's going to be on the top and who's going to be down towards the bottom. There's a lot that's going to be going into what these races are going to be having to set themselves up for, and they've only got 2 more minutes left of practice before we will get to racing action. Of course, like you mentioned, there is no qualifying for this race today. Qualifying took place in the duels on Thursday night, and the duels were set by pole day, which took place last Sunday. So we are fully set with the grid. 4 drivers did not qualify, meaning they did not show up for the duels. Christian Delgado did not turn up for duel number 1, and in duel 2, it was the same for Connor Hazel, Dalton Carter, and Eddie Jurgen, all 4 drivers not turning up. I do see a lot of them in the pack today, so what my guess that we're seeing right here is that they're going to be starting towards that tail end of the field, having forfeited any chance of starting further up the grid.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the case there. They're going to find themselves a little bit farther down in the order as a result of that. Normally, when we talk about a race such as this, it's going to be a situation where that would be absolutely detrimental to their cause. But if you've got the patience and you've got the ability to work your way forward a little bit on the day, that may not be the worst thing in the world. They could still find themselves in good position by the time this race gets done.
Final minutes of practice currently underway as we are going to get ourselves sorted for what will be an absolutely thrilling 500 miles of racing action around the Sunshine State's World Center of Racing. It is one of the biggest events of the year, right? The Great American Race, in my opinion, probably deserves a spot on the Triple Crown more so than others, but I will happily cede the position of the Daytona 500 to the Indy 500. I do believe that is the more prestigious event, but that's not to say that this race isn't going to be big. I mean, this race, it's called the Super Bowl of racing for a reason.
Yeah, it really and truly is, and the Hoosier in me is very thankful that you made that correction there, because I was about to come after you after saying that. But nevertheless, it certainly is a race like none other in the world. It is the World Cup of stock car racing, and it is a different experience altogether when you're talking about running a track like this. It's not easy. This may seem easy to those who are the uninitiated necessarily, that it may be a situation where you're just dealing with a turning left and that kind of thing. Well, that's a little bit of a misnomer here. There is so much that you have to take into consideration when you're driving a Daytona 500. You've got to be so cautious, so together, so absolutely perfect when you're traveling at over 200 miles an hour, inches, if not centimeters, off of the car next to you. It's so very difficult.
And now we are finally ready to go. The checker flag has flown on our final practice here of the weekend. So let's take a rundown of how everything is going to line on up for the 4th annual Cyber 500. Gary Bowman winning duel number 1 on Thursday. He will start first on the inside row. Cody Richardson, your winner from Duel 2 by only 1,000. But Matt Spartan Sim Racing will be down in the number 2 spot. Kyle Nadeau is in 3rd with Jerry Isaacs in 4th. Row 3 holds Judd Danielson and Cody Meadows. Row 4 with Trevor Ryan and Paul Turner. Chris Letts and Ed Jurgen, DJ, round out the top 10.
Corey Sherman's going to be starting off 11th. Outside of him will be Dominion Motorsports' Christian Delgado. Then it's Jacob Bowen and Jason Dinsmore. Matthew Hall is in 15th, followed by Kendon Cook. Then it's William Kern and Dan Keene, 17th and 18th. As we roll back into 19th position, it's George Cushman and Stephen Music make up your top 20.
Mike Donahue brings it up in 21st with Connor Hazel down to 22nd. Jared Camelli will be in 23rd with Coleridge Finnemore in 24th. Connor Dudek is at 25th with Dalton Carter 26th. Dave Gainforth, Ken Leung, Matthew Croak, and Andrew Kotsko round out the top 30.
31st position will be Ray Richer, followed by Tom Richter. That's going to be confusing me all night long. Then it's Jamie Horn in 33rd and Justin Carey in 34th. Eric Anderson is 35th. And Chris Wheeler from Blue Motorsports Bully Dog rounds out your 36-car field.
And we'll watch out for Richer and Richter, the difference only being a singular letter. So it'll be curious to see how that's going to pan out throughout the course of the night. There's one thing that ever remains constant throughout all of our Green Flag TV broadcasts. Drivers really do love to mess with us when it comes to the names.
Yeah, they certainly do. They like to keep us on our toes here up in the commentary booth, and we'll let them pass on this. As it certainly is just a little bit of fun that we have with them. But here we go. Richardson and Bowman leading the way off around here. Going to be interesting to see how it goes, and important to remember that you don't want to get a flying start here. That is not the way to run a super speedway race. You actually want to be in line and close in front of the drivers in front of you because you don't want to lose that draft. Otherwise, you're going to get swallowed up.
We are going to go for one extra lap. Looks like they have delayed the start on this one just to ensure that everybody has had the time to catch up to the tail end of the pacing line. I think that's a good call when you have a giant field, right? 36 cars rolling out for us here in this one. It makes sense that you want to make sure everybody's packed up line astern. The messiest starts are the ones where you got drivers that are still catching the tail end, so they're slowing down to not pass anybody before the line, causing some massive checkups. Let's say you get those early lap melees. The lights have extinguished, though. We should be green flag racing this next time by.
Yeah, we should be this time by. This is going to help drivers a little bit. Make sure those Goodyear tires are up to temperature just a little bit more, making sure that everything's going to be in perfect line with them. And this is also going to be a little bit of nerves for them. Maybe you extend this caution lap by one, it's certainly going to build that worry, I think, a little bit for some of these drivers. They're going to have more time to sit in their thoughts and stew a little bit about it. Not necessarily what you want to have happen for them, but certainly going to be a situation at this point where they want to be racing sooner rather than later.
Oh, absolutely, and that's how you always know that these races are going to be wild, right, is when you get those types of situations with them extending these yellows. Whenever they have to do that, that's usually a good sign because that means there's an absolutely massive field that's going to be rolling out before too long. And the views inside of these cars, they don't do it justice, right, about just how tense it must be feeling inside of these stock cars.
Yeah, they really don't. It is absolute nerves here at this point. You are absolutely sweating through your gloves. You feel the pressure. You feel everything that's starting to build on you here at this point as now they enter into turn 3. Getting ready to put themselves into position to get going. This is where you've all just got to put it to the wayside and let everything go.
Coming through turn numbers 3 and 4. We're happy that you're joining us here on a Sunday morning. Gary Bowman will be your control car in the 08 Chevrolet Camaro down on the inside of the racetrack. It's the biggest event of the season, and you know for a fact it's going to be a wild one. The pace car makes the dive into pit road as we get set to say, let's go racing in Daytona. Coming off of the final corner, Cody Richardson making that early charge to the lead as anticipated. Bowman will drop to third at risk of losing the podium. It will be Richardson to lead lap number 1.
Yeah, he'll be able to lead lap number 1 here at this point. Is that high lane looking like they're a little bit more together, a little bit more in the way that they are. So you've got to love to see that if you're up on that high lane here at this point. Let's see, though, what's going to happen. Now it looks like they lose momentum as Richardson, Isaac, Meadows, Bowman, they all dive down low.
All diving down to the low side as Richardson trying to make something happen here. This pack currently packed up line astern. Richardson with the lead as he is going to hightail down the back straightaway and into 3 and 4. And he will now jump to the bottom side, put it to the number 4 to lead the charge on the top side. Paul Turner, see if he can open up a crusade. But a lot of drivers bailing to the bottom early on. One's in the wall.
One's already in the wall. That's not what they want to see have happening there at this point, but let's see if there's able to get anything to fly here as they continue to move their way down that low lane, losing a lot of momentum here at this point. Only 2 cars up high, everybody else down low.
Those 2 cars currently working up to the top shelf. Not quite sure, trying to get numbers on who those 2 may very well be. I believe one of those would be the 29 car, I think, working to the top side of the racetrack. That might be the 92, though, of Ed Jurgen. That's the 62, my apologies. So that's Jason Dinsmore working to the top shelf, and then you got the 85 of Dan Keene trying to push in that GoPro Camaro as well. One car bailing out early, though. Paul Turner down onto the apron of the racetrack, and he's fading right to the tail end of the field. Thought for a moment he was coming to pit road.
Yeah, I thought for as well that he may be doing that here at this point. That's a little bit strange that he's going to be coming in like that. I really would have expected more of that kind of move to be done down the back straightaway if he was a little bit scared about what you saw. But the number 4 falling down through the order and creating an absolute logjam through the field. Yeah,
you saw there was a bit of contact entering turn number 1, and that's it nearly brought us out with the first caution flag very early on in a 200 lap race. Richardson still leads the way up at the head of this field, though, as time is now settling in. Most of this pack is single file, so we are now in for the long haul. That fade through the field, though, has really broken this pack up in a big way.
Yeah, it really has. The gap at this point now in 19th. There's that 0.8 of a second gap between Cushman and Hazel that's really going to separate the field out here at this point. But we can see everybody just kind of wheeling and dealing their way through the field, trying to figure out exactly where they're going to be, how they're going to be running. Trying to get a little momentum up on that high side here again, but it doesn't quite look like it's got the juice. Everything now is working down on the low side. That's where you want to be.
It's a lot of side-by-side, 2, even 3-wide action going on deeper in the pack as they were 3-wide. The 09 into the wall again. Stefan Music not having a good start to his race, already down 14, and has struck the wall twice, once to the tri-oval, and then once as well just down the back straightaway. So Music's car either not feeling too pleasant right now, or he's just being extra cautious and taking too many liberties, trying to keep it out of everybody else.
Well, and we've got to remember here, if you have that kind of problem going on, if you keep striking the wall, these next-gen NASCARs, particularly with the new aero kits that have been put on this year, they're incredibly aero-dependent. So if you ding up the side of this car ever so slightly, that's really going to sacrifice your speed, either coming down the straightaways or even through the corners in terms of handling. So he is going to be feeling that here at this point.
Thought I saw a bit of a crumble on the right front fender, right on the bumper. Yeah, you can definitely tell a little bit of a scratch there to the paint. So the 09 not having an ideal start to his race, and already you can tell losing the draft, so that aero dependency could be biting him. That said, you also heard him lift off when we went on board down the back straightaway, so Music potentially lifted out a bit too much. He's now struggling to keep it the draft, and I think he's going to lose it. He may very well be our first driver to fall clear from the pack and be at risk of going a lap down early.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was talking about, that concern that you have falling off there through the corners. If he's lifting, that's probably because the aero is not pushing that car into the track enough. It's not giving enough grip here at this point to really get the run that he wants to have. That's going to put him back down on the back foot. He's going to need to come down into pit lane sooner rather than later to get that repaired. Now, we were talking about this before. The race drivers do have one free repair, one spare car to be using over the course of this race. but you definitely don't want to be using it here in the first 10 laps. That is a real sketchy position to put yourself in.
No kidding. That fast repair is one that you want to hopefully not be using until the final quarter of this race. If you have to use that this early on, you're in really big trouble, especially if you get caught up in a big wreck. Right now, I'm seeing about 3 distinct packs being formed up. You've got the biggest one running first all the way back to about 22nd. Then 1.9 seconds back, you got a trail of 3 headed up by Donahue. You got Gainforth and Jamie Horn in here as well. Then 2.4 seconds behind them, Dalton Carter currently slipping further towards the tail end of the field. Then he runs 26th right now, dropping all the way back to Tom Richter, and Music has lost the draft.
Yep, he has lost the draft here at this point. 3 distinct packs starting to form up, though, as they run. And everybody pretty much running in single file order here as they go. So being in that run right here at this point, definitely hurting a few of these drivers. They're not going to love to see that.
2 drivers, though, jumping to the top side, and those are definitely teammates that are working to the top. Those are 2 of the Mad Spartan machines working to the top. That's the 37 of Ken Leung and Andrew Kotska going up as well. 2 drivers that if you were watching the Pro Car Concepts Pro Challenge Series, you'd be quite familiar with running in the GT4 category there. And they're starting to work their way to the front. They've got William Kern moving up with them, and I think that might be a throwback to the old Robbie Gordon days from the early 2000s, and then the 80 of Coleridge Finnemore going up with them as well.
Yeah, I think that's him that's going up there as well, as you said. Not entirely sure about the Robbie Gordon days there. I trust you a little bit more when it comes to the stock car history as compared to myself, but one way
dangerous.
or the other.
I'm not too familiar. I know from NR 2003, that's about it.
All right.
They're making some good progress, though, picking their cars off one at a time. But, again, you see that little bit of a gap forming. That's all the side draft, and that is how big the impact is on having to slip further and further back. You got that 95 of Kendon Cook now that's going to end up breaking ranks. And you tell Kendon Cook has not gotten that scheme up to par with the new templates. Because you see that 4 badge on the front? Yeah, that's not there on the new Mustang templates.
No, it's not. Obviously, the new templates being released here in concurrency with the new Mustang and the new Camaro bodywork that has been issued by NASCAR. You can definitely tell on that Camaro that little bit of aggressive side plating there on the nose of those cars. That's the real key, the real indicator there as to what they are. But nevertheless, they're going to keep working their way around here. I like what I'm seeing out of this second lane. These drivers trying to make that work here at this point. It doesn't quite look like it's playing yet. But Ken Leung, who I had the pleasure of calling last night, got a podium in the Majors Intimidator Daytona 500, was able to get a podium position there, so clearly knows what he's doing. And hooking up here with Andrew Kotska, another driver that was in that race as well. They continue to work that high side, and more drivers linking up there, trying to play with that high side. The more of them do that, the more you are going to see, I think, more speed up on that high lane.
The 97 car going to jump up to the outside line as we get more and more cars trying to push to the front. That's Kyle Nadeau, another driver that is familiar with the Mad Sim Racing community. So Kyle Nadeau leads the top, but immediately gets abandoned by the Mad Spartan duo as they're going to jump back down into the inside lane. Still leaving a 4-horse Crusade on the top. But hey, they're still making some great progress right now early on, considering how early it is in this race, considering how far back they started. But when those two Mad Spartan cars jumped to the bottom, these guys lost momentum. Now that outside lane's faltering back, and more drivers trying to get to the inside before they hemorrhage too many positions.
Yeah, and that's the thing here. You know, it's fine to be running too wide around Daytona. That's not really a concern. You're not going to have to worry about sliding up the track all that much, even with track temperatures as toasty as they are, although track temperature has fallen by about 4 degrees since the drop of the green flag. It's down to 90 degrees Fahrenheit with some cloud cover coming on in. But the big thing here at this point is you don't want to lose this draft pack. We've already seen what happened with Donahue, Gainforth, Horn, Carter, that second pack on back. You don't want to run yourself into a position of being in that group of cars. So I think at this point it's much better to just ride in line. And as I was saying at the beginning here, Nolan, get yourself to the end.
Getting to the end of the race, that's always key, and survival is going to definitely be one of the big factors throughout the course of this race. 7.5 seconds off. The two packs that we saw, the smaller ones, one with only 3 cars, have merged into form one bigger one. But even then, they're still dropping back 7.5 seconds and continuing to fall. Do you reckon at this point, because remember, the top pack is all single file as well, just as this second pack. Do you reckon the smaller groupings, since they're not checking up as much, have a chance to reel that gap in?
Well, normally I would say yes, but unfortunately here at this point, they're about 7 seconds behind. So in theory, they should be able to reel this pack back in, but I'm just not seeing the speed out of them to be able to do it.
It's a bit concerning, right? And I think these guys are being a bit too conservative right now. They've fallen another 0.3 of a second in just turns 1 and 2 alone. That'll turn to half a second by the time they get down the back straightaway. It's not an ideal situation to find yourself in early on. I think one of the few ways these guys are going to get back up to the front is if we get that yellow flag. They just want to make sure they're going to be aware if that caution comes from the front pack. They are about the perfect distance behind to just come flying into the mess.
Yeah, flying into the mess here, that is what is going to be the thing. If they are able to fly on in, that'll be different, and that's when I think we'll see that high lane really start to develop here at this point. But unfortunately, I'm just not seeing that play. I'm not seeing that get itself out there, and really and truly, we are not seeing anything get itself to go.
Right now, they're content with running as they are, and hey, it's still early, right? We're not even a 10th of the way into the race tonight, so there is a lot of racing left before we get to the close of this race. Check it back in on Music. Now sits looking like 35 seconds and continuing to drop behind the race leaders. There, in fact, are the race leaders coming into turn number 1. He's going to be down a lap by, I think, lap 20.
Yeah, I think he is too. I mean, they are just losing time here at this point. Music really, really off the pace. And once again, that damage running up into the wall, that's what hit him. That's what caught him out here at this point.
Kind of taking a little look here. We'll pull up the telemetry. Right now, running 178 miles an hour, 180 or so. That is completely topped out. He has foot to the floor right now in that 09 car. The race leaders, meanwhile, 190. And that is the big difference between speeds, and that is how much of a difference the draft will make. It is not something to be trifled with, and that's why it is so, so critical that you hang on to that draft no matter the cost. And unfortunately, Music, while he's failed at Task 1 of winning Super Speedway race, keep with the draft. Hopefully he'll get a caution, though, and he might even be able to save himself from going to lap down. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see what it is there at that point. If he can get that caution to come out when he needs to, that's really going to help him. That's going to be good positioning there for him. But I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get that caution to come out here at this point, because the way we're seeing these cars are all running in line. They are not being aggressive. They are being very, very calm, cool, and collected, and they're doing exactly what they need to do to get themselves to the end of the race.
It is very interesting, right, to see the two different types of racing that you can get at Daytona, right? Right now in this 500-mile race, we're seeing everything be very composed, very laid back. Everybody's being very coordinated. It's very unlike the American Sim Racing League race you and I called last Sunday when they were at Daytona. It was very rapid fire, very fast paced, especially in the early goings. Now it did have its calm moments, but it tended to be a lot more go, go, go. That's what happens when the race is only half the distance, less than that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. When you're running a 500-mile race, we've got to remember this is an endurance race here. That is what you are dealing with. You are running an absolute race of endurance, and so that's going to change the way you think about running this race.
Music going to be caught on lap 20 here as Cody Richardson going to have to make a choice. If he goes to the bottom, Music kind of being all over the line, not sure where to go. They're going to commit to the top, so Music will stay down low, and he might dip onto the apron here. He will dip onto the apron. That's a smart play from Music to get down and onto the apron. That's what a lot of drivers consider good lap car etiquette, right? If you're a lap car, go down to the apron. They're not required to do that, though. He can park it just on the inside line right above that apron if he so chose.
Yeah, he could very well do that and just hold down to that inside line. It's up to him in the way that he wants to do it. He could also run up high. It depends on what you want to do and what you think is going to be the easiest. The biggest thing to be able to do is be consistent, be crucial in the way that you do it, and be absolutely sure that you know that you are indicating to the rest of the field what you are going to be doing.
The unfortunate news for Music is the fact that because he was on the apron, he had to actually jam on the brakes for turn 3. So that has caused him to slip further back, and he lost the draft for the lead pack a second time. I was about to mention this could be beneficial to Stefan here because he could be able to tag onto the back end of this long train of cars, save a bit of fuel maybe. But now he's going to have to slip back and try it again when he gets caught up with the next pack. Another car actually losing the leading pack. That's Jason Dinsmore that's starting to slip back by 2 seconds. He'll be caught pretty quickly by that second train who's working out of through turns 3 and 4 right now. And I think this may be a byproduct of what we saw while they were getting around that lap car, right? The fact that we saw a lot of drivers moving up to the top and then jumping back down. Some drivers got shuffled out of line. Bowman lost a couple spots. And it looks like the 62 may have lost a bit more than most.
Yeah, I think they have. I think he did lose a little bit more than most there as a result of all of that. But they are just not looking like this is the problem. When you run through here at this point, it just looks like that they do not have enough to be able to get things to run. And if they fall back through the order, this is what can happen. And now you've got to be hoping for a caution period to come out. That is your only hope to be able to catch yourself back up to the rest of the field.
Pit stops are not too far away either, probably only about 15, 20 laps away. So we're going to be getting our first pit stop window opening pretty soon here as well. So that might be another reason why we're seeing some drivers perhaps a little, well, okay, I was going to say a little more hesitant to open up the outside line. As I say that, Gary Bowman will take a group of 4 up and start to lead another charge to the front. And the 97 goes in there as well. The 29 thought about it, but at the end of the day, Judd Danielson Racer will jump down to the bottom again. And then the 92 going up to the outside with him as well. That's Ed Jurgen trying to help him out on the top side of the racetrack.
Yeah, they're going to get a little bit of a 3-car train trying to get things to go here. And that also tells me that we're still a little bit ways off of our pit stop window opening up. We talked about that earlier on, what that was going to look like here for the pit stops. Those pit stops are going to be coming here in about, I would say, 15 laps time is what we're going to be looking at. Now, that could be a little bit earlier for some of the leaders here in this pack, like Cody Richardson, that's been cutting that air open in front of him here at this point. But I certainly think that they are going to be looking at that. When we see more cars scramble down to the low side, get themselves down there at that point, that's going to be the position where we are going to see, I think, more and more drivers opting to come down in and moving down into pit lane.
This group of 3, it's making some headway, but not as much as I think they would have liked to see. The outside lane can be very, very powerful on the straights because you get that extra boost coming off a much steeper transition from banking to flat on the front and back stretches off of 2 and 4. But in the middle of the corners, you're left with a bit of a stuck situation. And right now, they're kind of caught in the middle of kind of slingshotting between about the 4th and 6th place cars on the inside line. They have not been able to make enough speed to properly mount the charge on that top side. They're making steady progress, though, right? They're chipping away more and more. They might be able to get there up to the front, but they really got to hope that these 3 drivers stay loyal to each other on the top side.
Yeah, I think that's the big key here at this point is the loyalty that they do not want to see drivers having to dive down into pit lane. They do not want to see that happening. They do not want to see drivers having to make that move down onto the low lane when they're all working up there together. That is about the worst thing that you can have happen. You do not want to see that if you are running here at this point. If you've got friends up on the high side, you better hope they stick up on the high side.
Well, they got a good run that time down the back straightaway as Cody Richardson going to be looking like he'll drop back. Gary Bowman, the pole setter, will finally charge back to the point. Now, does he stay up on the top or does he hop down low is going to be the big ticket question. Gary Bowman, right now, he's staying loyal. He's looking to take his 2 drivers with him so they can all try to pull clear of Cody Richardson from the bottom.
Yeah, they're all going to try to hold here at this point and see what they are able to do. Couple of more drivers linking up on the high side. That's going to be the number 29 machine. Look like they're going to try to have a little bit of a run. That's Judd Danielson. Also going to be the number 45 up there as well as Trevor Ryan. They're going to make a little 5-car train, and for the first time here tonight, it's the high side that leads.
You reckon Danielson is having some regrets on bailing out for that top lane earlier on, about, what, 2-3 laps ago now?
Maybe. I mean, he certainly could be. But once again, leading here is not everything at this point in the race. But look at this. Everybody moving back down to the low side, and the 45 of Trevor Ryan getting hung out to dry.
I felt bad for Trevor Ryan. He was just tagging on to the tail end of this, trying to make some spots, and he just got abandoned like he was a third wheel. So Trevor Ryan going to be slipping back. He'll lose the top 10, and I'm willing to bet, unless, well, the 05 might let him in. There's a bit of a gap. Well, it doesn't look like it. So, yeah, Ryan looking like he might be slipping all the way back to 18th, where he might be able to find a hole.
Yeah, he may be able to find a hole here at this point and get himself up forward. That'd be really nice if he was able to get that to fly here at this point. But he just doesn't quite have the pole. It looked like he may have had it there, but he's going to have to wait in line more, and he's going to get hung out more and more and more here.
And that side draft that he did, it has single-handedly dragged the entire back portion of this leading group back by 0.4 of a second. It's very powerful, the side draft these vehicles can generate. And that's what you were talking about earlier about just how aero-dependent these cars are. That's why it is so critical that your car remains in good condition. Otherwise, you're going to be on the back foot every single time in any side-by-side situation.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to find yourself in bad condition there no matter what happens. And so you've got to make sure that these cars are perfectly pristine. The farther you go on into this race, you're going to have more and more problems getting that together and keeping that together. But at this point, you've got to make sure that you get everything right.
30 laps deep into the 4th annual Cyber 500 as Gary Bowman continuing to drive away from this field. Kyle Nadeau down in 2nd. Ed Jurgen runs in 3rd. 3 more cars have fallen off of the leading pack, including Trevor Ryan, Matthew Hall, and Corey Sherman. They now run 18th, 19th, and 19th through 21st. And they're now 13 seconds behind these guys, Mike Donahue and Moore, who still have not made up any ground on the leading pack. They have continued to slip back ever since they first lost the draft, only about 4 or 5 laps into this race. And you can tell it's kind of dampened the morale, I think, in this second train big time.
Yeah, it really has. Nobody really looking like they are in any way to get themselves forward. It's really just a holdout and wait situation here at this point. They do not feel that they've got the oomph to be able to bring their way up through the field. They're just holding out the best of their abilities.
Continue to hold out, they shall, as racing action looking to continue. Pit stops potentially less than 10 laps away. We were mentioning, we were talking earlier before this broadcast in our pre-show. Pit window looking to be about 38 to 43 possibly. So that, I think, will still end up being the case. So we are assuming to be about 10 laps away from pit stops kicking off. That's going to be where things get real interesting. And I think that's where we're going to be seeing some of the biggest pack splits of the evening. Or of the afternoon.
Yeah, I think that's right. When we get into that situation, when we get into that place where we start to see more and more drivers come down into pit lane, that's when things are going to break out a little bit more, and that's when we are going to have drivers that certainly lose touch with the pack far, far easier.
The Daytona Super Stretch reigning supreme as the 08 started on the pole, slipped back, lost the lead after the first lap of the race. Didn't lead his first lap until almost 30 laps in when he led that charge on the outside line. Stefan Musick will be the first driver to bail into pit road, about 6 laps shy of our pit window opening. This is a curious stop decision here from Musick. I think he's maybe realized, well, he's in a bad way now. What he may as well do, get off cycle, and he's actually driving straight through. So a drive-through penalty possibly?
I don't know for what he would have picked up a drive-through penalty for. I've got to imagine that that's maybe that he missed his pit stall as he came through. That's the only thing I can think of.
It goes bad to worse for the 09. And I noticed there's a lot more damage on the on that right-hand door now. It looked like, yeah, you can see that front end has been crumpled up even more now. And you can actually see it now from the onboard camera as well, just a little bit on the right front fender. Has he found the outside wall again, potentially?
Maybe he has. I mean, if it's tough here and he's running into problems, that could be the situation. He's sticking down to the lane. Yeah, I think he missed his pit stall here, Nolan. I think that's exactly what happened. He's not coming back onto the track.
Not coming back onto the track, and I did hear him somewhat sputtering down the back straightaway, so he may be just trying to nurse it around, and he's going to be back down and into pit road this time by, so that's going to cost him another lap at least. He's going to go from being 1 to 3 down because of that mistake. That might, in fact, be game over for the Thornton's machine altogether.
Yeah, that could be game over. He may be able to get a lucky dog here at this point if he's lucky, but even then, it's going to be a very, very tough ask for him to get him back into good position.
We'll see if he'll come back out onto the track in just a moment, but it is a long stop, and, well, he will actually come back out into the racetrack. So slowly making his way back out, not throwing in the towel just yet, and looking like he did take that faster pair. I'm not sure about that call. I know you want to get that damage fixed, but is it worth using a faster pair this early on?
I mean, it's worth it if you're that far off the pace, but unfortunately that's just going to put you in such a position where you're going to be worried the rest of the time about that car and about how it's going to run, and so you've got to be just extra careful as you bring your way back out onto the track.
Funnels out into no man's land. The race leaders ticking off lap 36. Bowman continues to lead the way from Maydew, from Jurgen. Still single file all throughout this field. Have not seen too much in the way of on-track overtakes. The only times we've seen that have been when there's about 2-3 car charges up to the top side line. So this is going to be curious, right? Will we see anybody try to make those last-minute lunges as we approach our pit stop window?
Yep, we're coming into that pit stop window here at this point, and I don't think it's going to be too far out of the question for Gary Bowman to come down into the pits here in just a few minutes' time. My guess is probably within about 2 to 4 laps. 40 laps is about the maximum that you're going to be able to do on this set of, or on this tank of fuel. And with Bowman up in front, maybe we're going to see Richardson having to peel down a little bit early. It's going to be a little bit interesting to see just who is going to be doing it, but nevertheless, we'll have to see.
Pit window will be opening for those that have been leading the charge and burning the most fuel this next lap around. For everybody else, not expecting them in until that lap counter ticks over to 40 on up. Now, Bowman has spent a lot of this race already in the middle of the pack. He has not spent too much time actually leading it, only about 10 laps up at the front. So he has had the chance to save a good chunk of fuel, and now Richardson, no doubt, happy to take the chance to save a little bit of fuel for himself as well. Keeps him on cycle, prevents him from having to pit a lap earlier than everybody else and potentially losing the pack.
Yeah, that'll be good news for him that he will do that. And I had forgotten that Bowman actually came from the back. Richardson, I think, is the one that we're going to see first pull walk out of the pit lane. That number 64 machine is going to be the one that has burned the most fuel here at this point. But 38 laps down, this is when I do expect the pit lane to start to open up here. And as we talk about this, remember, you don't want to pit by yourself. You want to pit in a group so you don't lose the benefit of that draft train as you work your way around here. So there's going to be a lot of communication among drivers. There's going to be communication among teams. We may even see some manufacturers' alliances come into play. We don't know how this is going to shake out, but we can guarantee it that we will see drivers coming down as a group.
And critically with those groups as well, we're not talking like 1 or 2 cars, right? We're talking minimum 3 or 4. If you only have like 2 or 3 cars in your group, you're not going to be making a whole lot of time. You need at least 4 if you want to make sure that you can keep up with the speeds that we are running right now in this big pack, still 18 strong. So at least 4, as many as possible, is obviously ideal. And I would be shocked if we didn't see at least half of this pack coming in together.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. You're not going to see a lot of solo drivers coming down in here at this point. It really and truly is going to be a big old pack. Nobody coming down in yet. A little bit surprised by that. The fuel economy doing a little bit better than I thought it would here at this point in the running. But by the same token, I think that means that we may see the whole field coming on in here as one.
Well, it's a game of chicken now, right? Nobody wants to be the first one to bail because it's a lot bigger risk that drivers may not come into pit road. And in fact, it'll be the second pack to blink first. Donahue will lead in a train, and he is going to take all but about 5 or 6 into pit road all at once.
Yeah, they're all going to come down in here at this point and bring that car in, so we'll have to see what that will do for the rest of the field if they decide to be able to do that. Everybody coming on in. Oh, the 38 missed their pit stall. That's Chris Wheeler. That's the second time we've seen that, and here comes more from the front pack.
Now we get to watch the timing tower go ballistic as it tries to keep up with all the position swaps going on. Richardson is the one to lead this pack in, just as you predicted, and they're going to be catching these guys right as they're trying to leave their pit stalls. But luckily, it looks like they managed to kind of make it through in such a manner that they're not going to actually find themselves in any sort of trouble trying to get into pit road. But they've got a lot of cars into pit road, looking to be about 12 that came down into pit road all at once, leaving right now currently, I'm thinking 10, 11 in that leading pack.
Yeah, that's about what it is here at this point, and things are going to get a little bit hairy here as they go. So it looks like the 38 having to get around there. I'm surprised right now. Gary Bowman, Nadeau, Jurgen, and Danielson all coming in, but we've got a couple that are able to make this stretch. William Kern, Christian Delgado, Finnemore, Cook, Bowen. They're able to stretch this stint all the way to lap 41. That is an impressive amount of fuel saving there, Nolan.
Track map up on the top right. Cody Richardson just left pit road. He is entering turn number 3. Gary Bowman is a driver that is highlighted in pit road. Now, they are both in their own little packs. This is more comparing 2 different packs. They're having to kind of track all the different numbers at once. Looking, though, like Cody Richardson will be able to make short work of these guys as he's going to work into the trioval this time by. These people are going to get smoked in turns 1 and 2 here.
Yeah, they're going to get absolutely passed like they're standing still. I mean, remember, these stock cars, it takes them a minute to get up to full chat here, so it's not like you're running necessarily a GT prototype or anything like that. It does take some momentum to build, but there's the 64 working their way on by right now, and there they are going to get passed, holding down to that low line. The question's going to be is if that second pack has got anything to try to hold on to, as now Delgado, Bowen, Cook, Kern, and Finnemore are all going to be coming down in.
And they are the last drivers we are waiting on to pit. Everyone else has been through and out of pit road, so the pit window will now be complete. We'll see them back in at about 40 laps time. So working onto the racetrack, Finnemore will lead the way out into pit road, but he's a alarming distance in front of Kern, and he's at huge risk of getting freight trained here by the rest of the pack he came down with.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a concern here at this point. There goes that leading pack on by. Yep, that is not what they wanted to see by any stretch of the imagination.
So around they go. Richardson will take up the race lead, and here's their pack number 2, and this is risky business, merging onto the racetrack when you got a full field of cars coming at full steam right behind you. The 24 of Matthew Hall is back into pit road, and didn't miss his pit stall the first time, but it's a long stop. Likely got caught for speeding.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. Got caught for speeding, going to be stationary down in pit lane. We'll know for sure if that pit stop counter hits about 40 seconds here at this point. He's at 32 right now. There we're staying on board with him. We've got about 5 more seconds to be able to tell for sure. There he is, out and on his way, or that's some of the other drivers out and on their way. 42 seconds, the lap time.
Yeah, right there he would have gotten it.
Yep, he picked it up.
Yeah, entry wouldn't make sense because he would have been held in this box while he was in, so it had to have been on the exit. So that explains why he is back down into pit road. That's a 1-lap stop and hold, too. He was in the box for 44 seconds, so he has effectively thrown that race away. He has got to hope that he has a lucky caution fall his way to get back into the fight.
Yeah, and that's going to put, now as we look, Chris Wheeler is going to be the driver that will be getting that lucky dog if we are to see a caution come out at this point.
Wheeler running in the number 32 spot out of Burlington, North Carolina, currently tucked in line with this leading pack. He's that blue and orange, the blue car with the orange stripe, McLaren style, in the middle of this pack of lead lap cars. This is actually a good thing for Chris Wheeler because now that he's in this pack of lead lap cars, it's going to make it extremely difficult for any other car that's a lap down to get around him.
Yep, it's going to be very, very difficult for anybody to get around him. He'll be able to hold on to that lucky dog position and hold into that running, hopefully.
well, as we say that he's going to lose the lucky dog, as Jason Dinsmore just went down one lap, so he is now your lucky dog driver, although not with the draft, so Wheeler has a chance to take it back when he falls back to the second group.
All right, there is that breakdown here at this point. Meanwhile, this leading pack up at the front right now, Richardson, Leung, Isaacs, Meadow leading the way. That pack of four cars up at the top of the charts right now. They're going to be holding on and feeling pretty good there. Dinsmore, I think, may be able to catch on to the back of it, and that's going to be a little bit of a boon to everybody involved because one more car on the back, even if it is a lap down, that's going to help them keep a little bit more speed, a little bit more momentum as they continue to work around this 2.5-mile oval.
2.5-mile oval, and again, when you're turning, 46-second laps, it doesn't feel like a lot. I have not walked this track or cycled around this track, but I am willing to bet you are going to be well out of breath by the time you even get around through turn 2.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, you are going to be absolutely out of it as you go. So it's going to be very, very tough to be able to see if you find yourself down in the order, getting anything out of that, you know?
All right, oh, look out! The 86 with big contact with the 2. Andrew Kotska and Jacob Bowen there having a big coming together, and we nearly had caution flag number 1.
Yeah, we've nearly had caution flag number 1. I want to give credit here to the Cyber Thunder Racing League. We are nearly a quarter of the way into this race, and that's the first time that we've had any bit of sketchy business whatsoever.
There was that one incident a little earlier on, but they were able to more or less keep it sorted. We'll ride on board with Bowen here. Watch that 86 car on the top side. You can tell that, I'm not sure if he thought he was clear. I don't think he would have thought he was clear, but maybe was trying to just side draft a little bit to drag his path back to make a hole. And it just didn't go the way he thought it would as...
Yeah, I think he thought he may have been clear there. That reads to me as a little bit of that he thought he had enough room to be able to slot in there and make things work, and it just didn't exactly play out for him. So I think that's what we saw there out of that position, just a little bit of miscommunication. Thankfully, everybody was able to get through nice and cleanly, and we didn't have any problems, but that could have been absolute disaster on the track.
Luckily, though, it was not. And we get to keep ourselves a green flag race for the time being. The 31 of William Kern looking to the top shelf as he is trying to take the 2, the 13, and more with him. And the second pack about to go double file. Now, could this be a detriment to them, in fact, though, because this is going to start dragging them back from the top 4?
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of a detriment. I don't think this is the time to be running too wide, especially if you're in this second pack here, Nolan. You still want to be running single file here, try to get as much momentum as possible. Remember, the side draft here, not nearly as strong as it used to be in the Gen 6 Cup cars. It's not the days when you're able to get more speed out of the side draft. It's really now all about running in a single line together. And literally, right after they've done this, they just broke into this 2-wide formation. They've already lost about a full second up to the pack ahead of them.
Yeah, it was up at about 7.3. It's down to 8.4 and continuing to drop. And one more lap car going to duck onto the apron. Wants absolutely nothing to do with this. That's an even better decision when they are running double file. The last thing you want to be is a lap car forced to the field 3 wide while entering the corner. That is a perfect recipe to get collected in an incident. And, whoa, that lap car, in fact, washing way up the racetrack.
Yeah, washing way up the racetrack. There, say that 5 times fast. You get a little bit of this side-by-side. Continuing on here at this point, we're going to keep our eyes on it, as it does look like there that's going to be Bowman able to take into the lead. I wonder here if we're going to see the 97 or the 31 maybe think about diving down to the low side, try to be able to get themselves there to get that momentum back spooling up again and try to get that to run.
2 lines reigning supreme now in this second pack. This is the biggest pack you got on the racetrack, and a lot of drivers switching around a lot. There's a lot of loyalties being shifted left and right. This is now a case of everybody wanting to lead and nobody wanting to follow, which is even worse.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. This is all jumbled up here at this point. This is not how you catch up to the pack. They've lost another 0.5 of a second. These guys have got to sort themselves out sooner rather than later.
No kidding, and I thought for a moment we were going to go around off of turn number 4 as well. It got a bit hairy. By the way, in terms of the pit strategy, nobody opted for a fuel-only stop. Everybody took tires on that last pit stop, and given how loose they all just got coming off of 4, that may have been a good call.
Yeah, I think it is. Track temperature continues to fall a little bit here. Let's be clear. It continues to go down a little bit more. It's down to about 87 degrees Fahrenheit out on the track. So that's going to be good news for everybody as they run. But nevertheless, I don't anticipate not taking tires. Why wouldn't you take tires here at this point? That just seems to be the right strategy to take. Get those fresh boots on the car. If everybody's doing the same strategy, you might as well go with everybody. And now, as we watch this second pack, this is where I've got to start thinking about maybe moving down here on the track, see if they're going to work it together. Doesn't look like they are, though.
They will continue to hang it up on the top side. A few cars getting a bit wobbly mid-pack, but overall, well, you got a few that are going to jump to the middle. Maybe there's a lot of indecision right now in this pack, and indecision is how you lose time. So you got to be decisive. You got to make these moves however possible. That's not what we're seeing take place. 2 cars will stay up on the top, and I'm willing to bet they're going to be sliding towards the back end now.
Yeah, they're going to be sliding way towards the back end here at this point, and they've got to get themselves in line. We got another car down into pit lane. That's Music. I wonder if this is a call in to say day done.
Already down by now 4 laps and into pit road. Remember, it was off cycle by about 6 laps as it was. And, well, I'm not seeing him hop out of the race car. So, oh, well, there it is. Yep, he just hopped out. So, Music will become our first retirement here of the afternoon. Unfortunate, right? And even more so by the fact that all the errors, there's only one person to blame, and that's the one behind the wheel.
Yep, he just had a little bit of a rough run there with it, and that is a very, yeah, as you said, nobody blamed on himself. He just ran into the wall more than a few times.
So we are 55 laps into this race. I think it's about as high time as ever to, or good a time as ever, to take a run down top to bottom of your field, and we'll kind of restack where everyone's currently sitting as it stands. Kendall Young leads the way with Jerry Isaac in second. Cody Richardson is in third with Meadows in fourth. Gary Bowman leads the second pack with Kyle Nader pushing him. Judd Anderson Racer is in seventh. Dan Keene, Andrew Kotska, and William Kern round out the top 10 here, DJ.
In 11th, it's Trevor Ryan still in this second pack. They're in the number 45. Then it's Jacob Bowen and Christian Delgado. Ed Jurgen in the number 92 runs 14th, and then it's Coleridge Fenimore in 15th. Chris Letts is 16th, and then we've got to jump a big 4.2 seconds back to George Cushman in 17th. Behind him is Corey Sherman, Connor Hazel also in that line, and holding on right behind is Kendon Cook to round out your top 20.
Jamie Horn brings it home in 21st with Connor Dudek in 23rd. There's a bit of side-by-side going on in this pack. Justin Carey duking it out with Dalton Carter. You got Tom Richter, Eric Anderson, Jared Camelli, Dave Gittenforth, and Matthew Krog to round out the top 30 as well.
In 31st, and the first a car a lap down is Jason Dinsmore. Then it's Chris Wheeler in the number 38 machine. He is stuck up in that second pack here at this point, trying to be able to hold on to a good position. Behind him, it's Mike Donahue, and Ray Richer runs in 34th, as looks like he's actually coming down into pit lane here. That's Kyle Nadeau actually coming down into pit lane in the number 97, unscheduled pit stop for him. Matthew Hall is 35th, the last car running on the track. Stephen Music down into pit lane and look like he's staying there.
And I do believe the 97 actually blew a motor here in this one, so that's why the 97 car is really slow. That car is not running right now, so Kyle Nadeau blowing the motor in the draft, and that is why he is down and out, and that's not ideal, to put it mildly. This pack still looking to be double file. We'll try to take a ride on board here with Kyle Nadeau, and we'll see if we can unpack what just happened to the 97.
All right, let's take a look here. Now, he's going to be rolling behind the 08 machine right now, giving him a nice little push. That's Gary Bowman in front of him. Let's take a listen, see if we can hear when this motor blows.
Right there, right there.
Yep.
Tell you what, he did a phenomenal job to get out of the pack, though, with that.
Yeah, he really did. And what that is a result of there at that point, Nolan, is running too hard in the car behind. When you run like that, you're going to overheat the motor. And the way to avoid that is to poke your nose out of line a little bit, to get your nose out of line and try to get some clean air on the car. There, perfect illustration. Felt the motor blow, got out of line as much as possible, and tried to do what he could to save that car.
So Kyle Nadeau is into pit road. He is back out, though, onto the racetrack, took that fast repair. He is going to be he will be 2 laps down in short order, but hey, it's better than nothing. So with a chance to get back into this race. So once again, we are working to be 60 laps deep, and we are still green flag racing. No cautions yet in the 4th annual Cyber 500. We'll be back in a moment. So I will raise my hand fully, and I can admit when I have done a commentator's curse. I absolutely did a commentator's curse, so I will take full responsibility for what has just transpired on the racetrack as caution number 1 hits just as we went to break. So looking like Matthew Croak was involved in this one. He went off the racetrack. We'll try to get a look back and unpack what happened.
All right, let's take a look back here and figure out exactly what went wrong in the running. Here we see what has just transpired.
A bit further up the grid. We're a little bit behind on this one. It's jumped around a bit, but hey, we got a lot of time. These cautions at Daytona, they can last a hot minute.
That they can, so we're going to take a ride back here. Now, I think this was coming down the back straightaway potentially, but let's see exactly how this fanned out. We see a little bit of two-wide action here as they try to sort themselves out a little bit, trying to get themselves in line. Watching the O2 right now up on that high side. Let's see what fires off. Oh, there it is. Yep.
Spins the O2 around. Oh, he's going to collect the 44. He's going to go up into the outside walls. That's going to be some pretty hefty damage there for Ray Richard, who was already down a lap, and that's what spun Croak fully around. And that is what now puts us under our first yellow flag of the evening. So, I mean, just quit yourself. There's only one way that's going to go, and, well, we just saw it right there. Nothing the car underneath him did wrong. Single car spin, though, not bad for yellow flag number 1, 60 laps in.
Yep, 60 laps in, and that's the first one that we've got. I'd certainly call that a little bit of a successful run here at this point. Certainly going to be good running there for them. But right now, everybody coming down into pit lane. Can't say I disagree with that. That is going to be a good call for everybody else to be able to do that. You might as well take it here at this point. That is probably the best way to do it when you take a pit stop down into pit lane.
Ken Leong led them down. We'll see if he will lead them out as well. Trying to beat a few drivers out of pit road, and he will not make it. Cody Richardson will be the first car out of pit road here. This time, Vines 64 will pick this one up. Now, what I'm curious to see is how many of these drivers that were stuck laps down are going to try to stay out to get the wave around here and potentially get another caution that will secure them on the lead lap, now able to come down pit road when they're on that lead lap.
That's a good question. I hadn't considered that necessarily, but that is certainly something that they are going to be trying to figure out here at this point. Who is going to be able to do that? Who is going to be able to play some of that strategy to the perfection of bringing themselves down in when they need to get that lap back?
So Kyle Nadeau Chris Wheeler, Mike Donahue, Matthew Croak have all opted to stay out. Now, Croak, of course, was the cause of the caution, so I'd be very surprised if he did not come down to the pit road. He got into that outside wall pretty heftily as well, so I would expect to see the O2 car coming down and into the lane. As in fact, he's having to let through a few drivers here in this one as race time continues. I can tell you right now, the pit strategy under cautions are always what makes these races even more interesting after the fact.
Yeah, and the reason he's having to let cars by on at this point is he was given an EOL penalty for incident responsibility, so he is being sent to the end of the longest line. That is why you see him falling back through the order here at this point.
I think that's a fair call.
Yep.
You clear yourself across the nose, you spin out, you cause a caution. Yeah, that tracks to me. And a lot of these cars are going to stay out, and we will be 1 to green this time by. This is a very bold strategy, right? Because now these are 4 cars that are now off cycle by about half of a fuel run from the rest of the pack. So if they want to get back on cycle, they're really going to need a caution to help them out.
Yeah, they're going to need another caution to make sure that they're able to get this correct and get this on the way back around. But we'll have to see what they do here. I'm not entirely sure if this is going to work or if, this is a big gamble considering just how clean of running we've seen here today.
It has been astronomically clean in terms of racing action here this one, and I think that is it's absolutely great to see, right? I mean, this is our first yellow flag, 60 laps in. That's not a bad run by Daytona standards at all, especially on iRacing, right? And a lot of the times in officials, the first half of the race, it's going to be a very stop, start, and you're going to be almost green for the rest of the race because you're only going to have like a third of the field left.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the way some of this stuff is going to break down here at this point, and they're going to be in a position. Let's see if what happens here. And again, we're going to see what happens for these drivers, because remember, now at this point, we're going to be back too wide again. Are we going to see more too wide running, or are we going to see drivers falling back through the field and going back onto the one-lane highway?
I think we're going to be seeing more of the one-lane highway, personally. I think these drivers are competent enough to, they're definitely competent enough. They show that on the first stint, but they are definitely able to recognize that we are still very, not really early, but we are still in the first half of this race. There's no benefit to going side by side.
Yeah, there's no benefit to going side by side here at this point. I mean, once again, get yourself to the end of the race. That is what I keep saying. That's the mantra that I keep bringing out here at this point. That is what you need to do. It's not about winning this race here at this point. You can't win it quite yet as we go back to green.
Green flag is up in the air as the field hightails it down the straightaway towards turn number 1 for lap number 64. Richardson, he took the lead on our first race start from the outside line. Force Gary Bowman to fall back. We'll see if he will lose the lead himself. It's 51 of Jerry Isaacs that's leading the charge up top.
And look at this, everybody bailing on that high line, moving down low once again, a little bit like what we saw earlier on in the running. But it looks like here that the high lane's got a little bit of momentum. Isaacs and Leung going to be able to get that push. The question is if they're going to try to shift down low.
Well, remember, Leung right now, as well as Kotzka, they are teammates with Richardson down on the inside line. So it is right now in their best benefits to actually push Jerry Isaacs clear, so that way they can get down and then control both lanes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they want to do. And it looks like Isaacs has got the clearance if he wants it. The question is if he's going to take it or not.
Looking like no, at least for now. We might see a change in that, though, when we get to the back straightaway. He might want to make sure that he can take 1 or 2 of these cars with him before he can properly commit to the inside line. We'll see this time on the back straightaway, but I don't think he's actually gotten too much clear. And in fact, Richardson trying to fight back from the bottom side and still remaining even with that third-place car up top.
Yeah, got a good bump there from Cody Meadows as they came down through the corner right now. Isaacs looks pretty content up on the high line. Little bit of a drift here at this point, thinking about moving down low, but he's not going to do it here as he runs. They're going to stay contented here. I'm a little bit surprised we're not seeing some more movement. Some of the drivers on the low line thinking that there could be some good movement up on the high lane, trying to see what they are able to get here at this point, but we'll have to see if they continue to play themselves out a little bit later on.
Judd Danielson racer going to be up to the top side, and the number 29 car starting to slip back. He tried to lead the outside charge. Nobody went with him. he will quickly find a hole to jump down low. That was very convenient for him. That USS machine was able to let him in down the inside line. That's Trevor Ryan that did him a huge favor by dragging that brake a little to leave a hole.
Yeah, drug that brake a little bit to leave that hole, open it up, and now everybody down on the low side making that work here at this point.
Still a few cars trying to lead the way from the outside, and no surprise, these were a lot of the guys that were already going side by side in that second pack, headed up by the 19 car of Jamie Horn up on the top side of the racetrack. Richter and Dudek are in there as well. There's a lot of cars still trying to make that outside work, but from this far back, that's a pretty big gamble.
Yeah, that's a really big gamble here at this point. I don't love this move. Let's be honest about it. I'm not wild about it necessarily.
Whoa, big trouble, big trouble.
And that's the big one.
Multiple cars going around and no caution. Okay, there we go. A bit of a late to the trigger call on that one. NASCAR officials must have been kind of in the break room for that one, but we've just seen the back portion of this field fall apart. And caution flying number 2 coming out less than 10 laps from the first one.
All right, well, it's the old adage here, Nolan. Cautions breed cautions, and that's exactly what we're seeing for these drivers. That the more cautions that we get, the more that we are going to see out on the track.
Big damage for Camelli in that one. Had the whole front clip ripped off in that wreck, so that was a nasty hit for quite a few drivers in this field, and we'll try to get a look exactly on what kind of kicked this off. This will be a wider angle entering turn number 3.
All right, so we'll take the wider look here at this point. I mean, this has disaster written all over it in 3 different languages. You've got 3 wide, 2 deep there at that point. There you see the 30 and the 21 getting into each other and just everything going out to naught there.
It's a really big checkup from this field. The 97 car took a hard lick into the outside wall, and then they rebounded right into the door of the 30, and one more car slid up, kind of tagged the outside wall there as well. But I want to get a look at this from the air if I can, because that was really weird. Like, the whole pack just slammed the brakes. Oh, right there, the 31. It got into the 19 and sent him into the wall.
Oh, and so that was the checkup that sent everything else around at that point. That's what threw it all off.
That's going to be real interesting how race control deems that for incident responsibility, right? Because I would honestly put that on the 31 car.
Yeah, I mean, that was the precursor, for lack of a better word, to that whole incident.
They were all checking up, but instead of checking up, the 31 went high, and that caused all of this. That was a nasty look that 97 car took into the outside wall, and about half the pack are into pit road. These are all the cars that got damage out of that mess.
Yeah, and they're all going to come on in, try to get a little bit of repair here at this point to make sure that they can do whatever they can to get back out on track. Now, remember, this is going to help out some of the drivers that were in trouble earlier on, that we were worried about whether or not they were going to be able to make it to the end of the race and taking that alternate strategy. This worked out a treat for them.
Except for the drivers like Chris Wheeler who got involved in said incident.
Well, I mean, yes, that goes without saying.
The 1 and 2 that got into it, maybe not so much. But, hey, at least they're on the lead lap. They're not going to go down a lap. A lot of drivers taking very long stops. They are not wanting to take those fast repairs. The damage, I noticed kind of all around, it wasn't great, but it wasn't horrible either. It was the damage that, with the pace laps being as long as they are, it was repairable. So they are opting to just repair it manually as opposed to wasting the fast repair this early on.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. You've got the time under caution here. You might as well do it at this point. Let's take another look on board here. There we see the check up in front. There we see the stack up, and really almost got through it clearly.
And it just got clotheslined to boot, which is a big shame.
Yeah.
It's a messy incident, but that's what happens with Super Speedway racing. One driver checks up, and it's a beehive at that point. And, I thought the 20 for a moment just got clear. Not so much, though. There was an effort, but just got caught at the last second on that one for that number 20 car, which is a bit unfortunate. Should be going 1 to green here, I think. Jerry Isaacs with the lead, and Ken Leung will move to the outside. And we are 1 to green. This is an absolutely perfect situation for the Mad Spartan crew because these guys now, they have a car on the outside, which we know is best off of these restarts. They can get one car in front, jump down, keep that 64 on the outside. You control both lanes, you control the race.
Exactly. So what they need to do here at this point is the 37 of Leung needs to try to get in front of that 51 of Jerry Isaacs, if at all possible. That's the push that they've got to make here at this point. If he's able to do that, if he's able to get clear, that's going to put him into a position where he's going to be able to hold on to it, and they are going to be able to control this race for the Mad Spartan team.
So Jerry Isaacs, a driver that, by the way, is quite familiar with drivers like Ken Leung. Of course, we mentioned the Pro Kart Concepts Road Challenge Series. Jerry Isaacs was actually the creator of that series, and Leung, one of the competitors. So quite a few of these drivers very, very familiar with each other and how they run. I know Matt Sim Racing in particular and Cyber Thunder Racing League have held a closer relationship for the last little while as well. So a lot of their drivers kind of co-mingling here in the Cyber 500. But right now, Isaacs has a choice. Does he try to fight them to keep that lead, or does he kind of let it happen? So if that outside gets a charge, frankly, I don't see him having much of a choice.
Yeah, I don't either. And once again, we're only 70 laps into this race, Nolan. Don't push it. Don't be too aggressive here at this point. Let this race come to you. If they want to be aggressive and push their way ahead, let them.
Pace car will dive into pit road this time by, and we will look set to get back to green flag racing. Jerry Isaacs with the lead, although it might not stay that way for too long. Green flag is back in the air. Lap number 70, 130 laps still to run. We're underway.
All right, Isaacs does get a good lead, but it looks like Leung and the 64 there of Richardson are going to get that good hookup on the outside. So that's the run that they want to have here at this point to try to get everything together. But still, that low line looking relatively more dominant here early on.
Leung going to continue to try to fight that one for the top side. He's gotten the nose clear. Now, does he jump down low, or does he take his teammate Cody Richardson with him? They're going to push big into turn number 3, and just clears Isaac down to the low side. And now Racer up to the top. He will lead that jump to the outside line. They now control the inside. They have nobody right now working the outside line, but you still got 2 cars down to the bottom. That's not a bad strategy at all.
No, it's not a bad strategy to hold on to. So, you can hold on to it here and keep it running as it is. So let's see how that's going to play itself out. I'm not sure that we're going to see a whole lot better. Yeah, 2 cars up in front, Leung, Richardson, and Kotska behind there as well. That seems like a pretty good strategy. I might as well hold on to that and, well, hope it's going to keep playing out.
One of these drivers, Racer, did jump down to the inside line. That's the 29 car that hopped down to the bottom, while everybody else continuing to run up on the top. And right now, that 83 car showing that perhaps not the best car to be leading the outside line, might be better as a pusher, as they are now starting to slip way back through this field. That outside lane has lost all of its momentum.
Yeah, it really and truly has. And more cars trying to dive down low, with a little bit sketchy there through the tri-oval to try to make that work, but I think they just barely did.
So the GoPro machine, I think that's Chris Letts. That might be the 65. Well, scored as the 65, showing 85 on the car, though. So a potential mismatch in numbers. No, okay, so Letts is here. Oh, it's Dan Keen. My apologies. I completely lost Dan Keen in the scoring tower. So Daniel Keen continuing to lead the top, and he's got Richter right behind him. Not a bad driver, as we've seen before, to be pushing that Bucky's 34. But again, right when you get to that back bumper, watch those water temps. We've seen one driver blow the motor already. We don't want to make it 2.
No, we certainly do not, and you do not want to have that issue where you're going to be blowing the motor, so that's where you're going to see those drivers kind of poking their way out in line, moving this way, moving that way, trying to get a little bit clear, trying to get some of that clean air to the front of that car as much as they can. That's exactly what you see there out of that baby blue and orange machine. More drivers, though, the Bucky's machine moving down low. That's the 34. They're opting to get out of the firing line and get back into safe space.
King going to continue to try to work the top, and he's got Chris Wheeler right behind him as well in the 38, but doesn't look like Wheeler's going to be able to do too much as now the rest of the pack going to be single filed out. 3 seconds back, here's pack number 2, headed up by William Kern on down. That's 25th on back. A couple of lap cars also in the fray.
Yeah, everybody in the fray here at this point is, once again, we see single file running. We see everybody as they get their way on through. We see everybody trying to do what they can to be able to get themselves into good contention here at this point. Richardson holding it behind. Ooh, that was a little bit of a bad bump.
Yeah, that didn't go Kern's way at all, as William Kern going to be shuffled out of the line, and he's going to drop down to the tail end of this field. I tell you what, I mean, these cars, the racing you get is so unique, right? I mean, when you look at the Xfinity cars or the trucks that run here, those cars, whenever they're racing here, they're very side-by-side all the time. There's a lot of double file. There's a lot of three-wide action, especially in three-wide, especially at Talladega, right? Not so much in these Cup cars. It's almost impossible to run side-by-side for extended periods of time in these Cup cars. And it's these aerodynamic dependencies, right, that make it so impossible to be side-by-side for these long stretches of time, and it's what kind of makes the side-by-side racing so much more sketchy instead of run-of-the-mill.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it all the difference here at this point as everybody continues to get their way forward. We watch this second pack trying to sort themselves into live. This is really where the sketchy point of the race is as we watch them and they try to get their way forward. This is the 101 that we watch. That's Dave Gainforth holding on to that lead pack. Justin Carey, I've got to say, I'm not exactly pleased with what I've seen out of him. There's been a couple of sketchy bumps that Carey's given.
And there was a big moment that last time by coming off of 4 as well, that discombobulated this whole pack, and they lost by a second and a half as a result of that. These drivers in the back, I think it's a case of everybody thinks their car is faster, right? So they all want to try to push their way to the front. Let me lead the charge. You clearly can't go because we're slipping back. The issue is everybody's got the same car. They're all equally off the pace when compared to the leading pack. And, right there. Oh, there's another bad bump. The 21 going around. He's going to spin to the bottom of the racetrack. So around goes Carey. He's going to take Donahue with him into the infield. He's going to take Croak with him. So Croak involved for the second time. But no caution because of how far down the racetrack that was.
Well, that's at least good for our watching pleasure here at this point, but that is terrible news for the likes of the cars that were brought down to the inside.
Just poked out of line and then tried to get back up and got tipped around by Matthew Croak, spun at high speed into the infield. The roof flaps keeping that car on the ground as it bounced through the infield. And we'll get a ride on board here with Croak as well. We'll kind of we'll dissect a little bit more.
Yeah, watch this here from onboard Croak. You see him move down and move back up. There's nothing really Croak could have done. I mean, he's just running his own line there at that point. The car moves down the track. He could have moved up a little bit to try to give him space, but I'm not even sure that would have played out for him.
I think it is definitely worth noting that when you looked on board with Croak, he may not have stayed in line with the car in front of him, but he was perfectly in line with the car leading the pack. That's a great job of then showing you which car was the one that was moving around the most in that field.
Yeah, exactly. He was the one that was doing the most movement there at that point, and when you've got more movement, that's normally where the blame's going to fall, sad to say.
It's unfortunate, but it's how the cookie crumbles as this one at speed, and it's a very high-speed slide all the way down through the infield grass, and I can almost guarantee you that if these cars were like the old 80s cars and they didn't have roof flaps, that absolutely would have been a blowover complete with barrel rolls, Darrell Waltrip style down the backstretch.
Oh, without question. That could have been so much worse there at that point. And thank goodness that we are running the way that they are, as everything was able to get a lot cleaner there at that point. And we didn't have any terrible runnings like that.
Chris Wheeler with right front damage and now slipping to the back of the pack. Is that damage new, or is that from a past incident that we've already seen?
I'm not sure if that's new or if that's past damage. It may, I mean, that car is not been doing the best out there on the track. It looks like it's really suffering here at this point. So I think that's some new damage that's maybe been picked up, and that's what's causing him to fall back down through the field.
It does look like new damage. That I'm not familiar seeing that dent on the right front fender, so looking like Wheeler has had some problem of some sort. So that's not, again, it's not ideal to put it mildly. And you know what, in fact, we may very well be able to actually get a look at what happened, because I am noticing he did drop through the field pretty speedily here. So let's take a look, and we might have to do a little bit of rewinding, so just bear with us here. That as well, after the damage has already been established, so we'll back this up a little bit more. We'll see if we can't find anything in particular, but so far staying in line, and yeah, no, I think that's just from a past incident, and he just finally lost the draft for the cars in front.
Yeah, it looks like there he maybe thought he was going to get some help up on the high side, moved up to that high lane and tried to make that play, and it just didn't play out for him, unfortunately. And he lost all sense of time up there and lost all sense of momentum, and that put him back down through the order. That is going to put him about 5.5 seconds off the pace here at this point.
So down and out for Chris Wheeler. Again, still has to hope that he can get a caution, and I can almost guarantee you we're going to get at least one more before this race is over. There's the 21 up to the top side. He'll let this field through. So Justin Carey going to go down his first lap of the race after taking that high-speed spin down the super stretch and into the infield grass, entering turn number 3. It's not been an ideal day for the Valvoline Camaro, as he's going to be down and out. I'm sure the second pack might be breathing a slight sigh of relief, but now they're 2 cars less strong, and that means they're that much slower now.
Yeah, that much slower, that much less momentum, that much less of a run here at this point.
Now, right about now is when we would have been expecting to see our second pit stop window, but instead we're going to be waiting another 20 laps or so before we get these guys down into pit road again, courtesy of that caution period that we had to kind of break things up at about lap 60. So it should be, I'm thinking, right around halfway when we're going to be seeing these cars back into pit road again.
Yes, my math is never all that great, but we will have to see if that is what it is. I think that's about what it is.
I know for some drivers we might be going a bit further because, of course, we had that caution flag as well on 66, and they were able to save a few laps under the yellow flag there. We went green on lap 71. So some drivers will be able to stretch it into the second half of the race, and those would be drivers that were already off cycle, having to stay out, of course. So I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm thinking. I mean, this is this race has been turned on its head quite effectively. It doesn't look like it now, but right now the strategy game it's never been more alive.
No, it really hasn't. And once again, you've got to start doing the math backwards here at this point. That's really where you've got to start doing all of that. It is getting that math backwards, counting back from the end of the race and seeing when it will play.
So the 37, the 64, continuing to lead as they have from the drop of the green flag here. Ken Leung has been the one that has been doing most of the draft breaking right now, up at the front of the field. And the only thing disrupting the Spartan 1, 2, 3 is, of course, Jerry Isaacs, the lone outlier in the sea of black and blue. So Isaacs is a driver that I'm sure is content to be running up there, right? I mean, he's familiar with these 3 drivers around him and how they run, but I imagine that Kotska is a bit miffed at the fact that he can't be linked up with his teammates right now.
Yeah, but at the same time, you know, he's just holding in behind. I don't think he necessarily feels the need to push himself ahead. He wants to be up with his teammates, don't get me wrong. That would make his life 10 times easier if he was able to do that. But at the same time, it looks like he's still content to be running where he is, and he's not going to have too many problems when he needs to, I think, at the moment.
So working lap 87, there you see another car up to the top side. I do believe that would be the 02. That would be my best guess. Yes, it is. So we're going to be seeing Matthew Croak going back down a lap, as he was the driver that ended up unintentionally hooking the 21 into the infield on the high-speed spin. So that's why we see Croak slipping down to the field. could get the chance to link up with the drive here, but he's going to have to jump down in line quickly. The last time he found himself going down a lap, he unfortunately didn't get down in time, so he lost the draft as quickly as he was caught.
Yeah, he did lose that draft very, very quickly. He's going to have to hope that he gains it back up here at this point. It's just going to be a matter of being patient. Up on that high line, he's got to look for a clean lane. He's almost got one right there. Not quite able to get down into it, so Croak's just going to have to hold on here at this point. He may have to settle for being last of pack, but that's okay. If he can stay with this leading pack, that is the key here at this point.
So Ken Leung will continue to lead. Checking in on the second-ish pack. It's fallen off from the leading pack. This is Kendon Cook that leads the second grouping in that mix and match Ford. Eric Anderson is also in this group. You've got Dan Keene as well. And in fact, there's where the 21 car actually linked up with the secondary pack here. So there is some speed to be had there for Justin Carey. That's good news for him. Although, again, some double file going on here. And have we just seen one driver? I thought we had one driver just bail into pit road. We have had a driver bail into pit road.
We did. It's Matthew Hall. Yeah, Matthew Hall coming down into the pits here at this point. Not entirely sure what that's about. I mean, we're only about 27 laps into this stint, so we should be able to make it a little bit farther if he wants to, but clearly Hall's seeing something that he doesn't like. Maybe doing some of that reverse math. He's already a lap down, so he doesn't have a whole lot to lose here at this point, but let's see what this decision is.
Well, no tires going on in that car, and well, I might be wrong with that one. I did look at the timing screen, so I may have just missed the car going up on the jacks. But a 15-second stop off and away from Matthew Hall, who's back onto the racetrack. Now, remember, Hall is one of those cars that came down, that came down on the lap 60 caution, but did not come down on the caution immediately after. So he is more on cycle with the leaders than the other cars in his field. He stayed out under that first yellow flag, which is why we see him coming down into pit road now. He was one of the cars that had to stay out to get that lap back.
Okay, so that explains a little bit of that. Still early from my estimations of what we would think he would be doing here at this point. Not entirely sure why he'd be coming down, but nevertheless, he's clearly got a strategy, and he's sticking to it. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, DeYoung and Richardson still hooking up here at the front. They're going to work their way on by the lap traffic. That's Steven Music that we see in front.
So Music has gotten back into the race car, and I thought for a moment he was going to be down and out, right? We touted him as being our first actual retiree of this race, but hopping back into the car, so the Thornton's machine is going to be back into the fight, although now several laps down. I think he is looking to be 7 down, I'm thinking. My max correct on that one. Kyle Nadeau, in fact, is the first driver down and out, as he has been in the box since lap 68.
Yeah, and he is categorized as out on my screen, so he has gotten out of the car. He is done and dusted as things run.
Music at the moment, just hoping that some more misfortune befalls this field's way so he can get at least closer, if not onto the lead lap altogether. Leung right now showing no signs of faltering, though, from the top end of the field. We talked about the second pack. We did not talk so much about the third. I was meaning to jump back to them a while ago. But Jared Camelli at the moment, one of the drivers that got the worst of the damage in the big one entering turn number 2, is the car that we now see leading the way here in this third pack. Runs 24th, Richer, Kern, Gainforth, Dinsmore, Wheeler, Turner, and Carey in this as well. Looking 24th through 29th, 29th through 30th, at least on the lead lap, and there may be 1 or 2 lap cars in the mix here as well.
Yeah, may or may not be a few of them there in the mix as they try to get their way forward. And everybody just trying to sort of piecemeal your way out, see where you're able to be, and understand what's going to be happening as you continue to go. So I think for these drivers, this is all a waiting game. This is all just about waiting to try to see if you're going to be able to get yourself up into position, if the yellows are going to fall right to get you back up into that lead group. You may not have the pace right now, but once again, long race here. We're not even at halfway yet, so there's still plenty of time for this to play itself out.
And remember, around that halfway mark is when we are expecting to see pit stops kick off for the second time tonight. So it is not too far away. So these drivers have got to keep their wits about them It's right around that pit stop when about halfway through the second one where we saw our first caution of the night. We have gotten a good bit of green flag running in since, and I think that's kind of the big thing, right? The first few laps are always sketchy, but once you can get past the first 5 to 10 laps of a restart, you're usually pretty good for the long haul at that point.
Yeah, you really and truly are. Once you get into that position and once you get yourself past that first kind of flurry of cautions, then you're going to see things come back to you a little bit more. Things are going to be a little bit better, and you're going to be able to get yourself back out onto where you want to be in terms of that running. So definitely a little bit better here at this point, and we're definitely going to see, I think, drivers continue to be calm, although the aggression will ramp up with about 50 laps to go. That's what I anticipate here at this point, that's when we're going to see drivers really start to put this on the line. We're going to see some aggressive moves. We're going to see some forward thinking here, and we're going to see that two-lane fight really start to develop.
I think a lot of these drivers are trying to set themselves up for pit stops here because we have not seen any actual on-track overtakes for the last 5 laps, which is that's actually a bit surprising here for a super speedway race, right? As it's pretty uncommon for us to not get any kind of position swaps for such a long period of time, and that's because everyone is running right now single file. Nobody's trying to make these charges up towards the top side or the inside of the racetracks. Everyone's being nice and coordinated. Everybody's playing nice right now. But how long do we think these nice games are going to last?
I'd say for probably another 50 laps. That's about what I'm looking at here at this point. When we get 50 to go, it's all bets are off, and we're going to absolutely go for broke here in terms of the attack and in terms of where these drivers are going to try to push themselves. But right now, you are right. This lead pack in particular, probably about 6 laps away from the pit stop cycle starting to fire off here. So once that does, that's when we're going to see a little bit more fury coming out. Probably going to see this pack separate itself a little bit more. I would not be surprised if we see a little bit more breakout here. Probably the Matt Spartan driver is going to be hoping they're able to get themselves into a position where they're going to be able to pull away a little bit more and a little bit easier. But once again, we'll have to wait and see. That is what this is all about here for the Cyber 500. It is all about patience. Good pushes here. I like what I'm seeing out of Cody Richardson. He's being aggressive with his teammate. He's pushing him down the road, doing what he needs to do, but he's not doing it in a way that's super crazy.
And this is the advantages of running with teammates, right? Like, you can communicate really effectively, and a lot of these teams are running in their own individual Discord channels as well. I think it's worth mentioning. And when it comes at least to these guys, I can almost guarantee you what they're doing is they're actually coordinating when they're going to make these bumps. They'll actually say it out loud, like, hey, I'm going to give you a bump here. So that way they're not caught off guard by it. They can make sure that they are a lot more prepared for that run and they don't make any erratic movements.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. That's the advantage that we have here on the simulator as compared to racing in real life, is that you certainly have that ability to talk to one another. You're not having an end-to-end communication with your teammates when you're out on the track racing Daytona in real life. It's a little bit different in the way that runs. So that is going to be the way that plays itself out here, and that's the communication that we'll have. But meanwhile, the front of this pack, once again, about 4 laps away from this pit stop starting to come on in. It's not going to be too much longer now.
Didn't you used to be able to talk to your teammates on the radio in the Real World Series in like the early 2010s or something?
I don't think that's ever been a technology that's been used. I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
I distinctly remember like seeing, at least in the 500, I think it was Mike Joy that was pointing out that there's like buttons like on the dash they could push to talk to like their teammates or whatever. Like not all the drivers on the track obviously, but just like their individual teammates. And I think they were using like I think it was the one car of Jamie McMurray as an example for one of the buttons. I don't know. I could have swore that was a thing that they had, at least for a little while before they banned it altogether.
Maybe it was. I don't know. I'll be the first to admit my NASCAR history isn't necessarily as sharp as it is, say, an open wheel. So that very well could be the case, and that's just something that I don't know.
Interesting. I did a quick Google search, and I found nothing that was helpful. So,
all right, there we go.
I might be wrong, but it's hard to do a Google search at this point as well. Music back into pit road. Now, again, this is a scheduled pit stop for him. And this is right at halfway as well, where we saw everybody that stayed out under that caution at lap 60. So we are expecting now to see everybody that did stop at about lap 60 be in within the next 5 laps.
Yeah, that's about what we should be expecting here at this point. Again, 38 laps, the stint. The likes here of Bowen, Finnemore, and Delgado looks like they're going to be able to stay out a little bit longer. But again, we'll have to wait and see what they end up doing in terms of this strategy and how this is going to play. Because when they're off cycle a little bit more, that can certainly be a little bit of a different thing.
Big charge coming on the outside line. We haven't talked about it too much, but I did notice a few cars trying to link up. I didn't think they were going to go anywhere, but they certainly are now. Jacob Bowen trying to make a charge to the front, and he is pulling the 80 car with him of Coleridge Pinamore. The 13 as well of Christian Delgado is up there, and then I believe that is, oh boy, that was a bit tight, but the 19 of Jamie Horn is going up as well. There's a 4-car charge on the top side, but that moment they just had coming off in 2 stalled their run.
Yep, start stalling that run a little bit. I'm surprised this close to the pit stop as they run that they're going to start coming on in here at this point. That's a little bit surprising to me as that they do that. As here we go. I really would have thought that we would have seen drivers stay a little bit more together and they would have wanted to stay down on the low lane, but clearly they want to work up high.
The outside's been a good place to work with so far, but I'm not sure if that's a wise move to make this close to the pit stop window. They are dropping back, and I'm noticing a few cars very quickly jumping to the inside line, like the 80 car of Finnemore literally just used this line to leapfrog like 2 cars and then immediately jump back down the line the second he found a hole, and that leaves just 2 now on the top, and they're, oh, look out, there we go, the 13 going around of Delgado. That could be big, and I think we have escaped. Oh, not quite. The 6 going to get into there as well. So Corey Sherman spins around, and he's going to, oh, the 0-2 again getting involved. That's the 3rd crash of the night that we've seen Croak be involved in.
And that is just a tough break there for him. It just continues to go from bad to worse. But this is going to mean that everybody's going to pretty much come down on the same pit cycle, and that's going to change everything around when we talk about that strategy.
Delgado just tried to clear himself to the inside of Finnemore, and it does not go the way he thought. So the high-velocity TV number 13 Camaro spins around, tags the outside wall with the left front pretty heavily. That'll be a lot of damage to repair. Everybody's now ducking down on the racetrack trying to get around this, and the 6 just got unsettled on the apron, slid up, door slammed the 13, and spun himself around. And the 0-2 left with nowhere to go, just clobbered him on the apron.
Yeah, just an absolute clobber there at that point, and that's going to be unfortunate that we see that much damage taking place there. And this is the danger. This is the danger when you decide to run too wide. That's clearly a driver that was thinking about coming down into pit lane probably pretty early from that moment and trying to see if they could be able to get something to run, and clearly didn't happen.
The 6 actually got helped around by the 3. Dalton Carter get into the back of the 6. They were all coming down onto the apron. So here's a look at what happened here. This is on board with Carter. You're going to see this start to develop. Watch the cars up top. There's the spin entering 3. He's trying to... He tried as much as he could to slow that one down. That's just unfortunate.
Yeah, that really and truly was very, very difficult there at that point.
Well, this caution falls very well for the field. They were about, 2 to 5 laps away from coming into pit road as it was, so this gets them pretty much back on cycle with everyone.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who was a little bit off cycle here at this point, as you said, this is exactly what they needed to have happen. They're going to be in great position.
Good chunk of the field making its way back out onto the racetrack. We are working caution flag number 3. Over halfway home, less than 100 laps to go from the 4th annual Cyber 200, or 500, I'm sorry. And, well, now that I don't have the chance to jinx us with another yellow, we're going to go to break, and we'll be back in a few.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. We have one lap to green. You are currently looking at Stefan Music, who is in pit road. And the reason why we are looking at him, he was trying to get the wave around the pace car, and his motor expired while getting up to temp. The front end damage, just too much for that car to bear.
Yeah, just a little bit too much to bear at that point, so that's going to be an unfortunate run, an unfortunate end to his day here as he brings himself back around. You don't love to see that there for him, but unfortunately that is exactly what happened to him.
So pace car will be down and into pit road this time by, and we will get set to go back to green flag racing action. We will let you take in the sights and sounds of Daytona International Speedway as we get ready to rumble once again as more drivers get checked up for the back. Green flag is in the air once again as you listen to the roar. Two packs forming up pretty early, and now we're seeing a lot more side-by-side than we ever have in the entire duration of this race.
Yeah, they're really starting to get side-by-side here at this point. I think it is time for this action to get a little bit more intense here. A lot of lane switching, and now it looks like those teammates up at the front of the field, they are in control here at this point. The Matt Spartan teams of Richardson, Leong, and Kotzka, they are in control of this field.
And this is a very frustrating situation for everybody behind to be caught up, and kind of referencing another league that we run on Friday nights, the LTAG All Street Media Cup Series. There, the Eastern Stars Motorsports crew had 5 of their drivers in a situation like this, controlling both lanes in their Daytona race with the season opener. As much as people tried, nobody could get around them, and they ended up with a top 4 lockout. So it is absolutely incredible for these guys. They're able to get in a situation like this, and this could very well prove to be an absolutely ideal situation if this race continues. Caution flag is out. Oh, we got the big one coming through the tri-oval.
Oh, multiple drivers involved in it here at this point as they're going to be off and down to the inside right now at this point. Oh, that is absolute heartbreak there when we finally had some good, exciting side-by-side racing with about 90 to go.
Well, unfortunately, with good, exciting side-by-side racing and cup cars at Daytona, you get big, exciting crashes as well. It usually follows not too far behind.
Yeah, that tends to be what happens a little bit there as they run. But let's pull back the replay machine, find out exactly what happened to bring out this latest yellow, our third or fourth of the day. I can't remember.
It would be number 4. Trying to track who would be a good driver to kind of track for this one. Let's go with Matthew Hall. Why not? He was right at the back. You can see all it's already developing. One driver got out of shape and 3 wide entering the tri-oval, and then a bit more kind of out of shot. And Skinny spun around. Was that the 18 that got involved? And the 95 took a hefty whack into the outside wall.
Yeah, that was a big, big hit there for him.
There's a few cars getting kind of beat around in this one. I know that was Kendon Cook that went big into the outside wall. And he was one of the drivers that started this, got into the 31, and when they were going 3 wide with the 44, the 101 just got clipped, as did the 43. And the 38 car split down the middle and escapes disaster.
Oh, that had disaster written all over it in about 13 different languages. I don't know how he managed to get out of that one.
Well, right on board here with Chris Wheeler, as he was right behind the mess. Hang on.
There you see it. Good checkup as he sees the smoke start to play. Call that man Moses.
It does not get much closer than that. That was some fantastic driving right there from Chris Wheeler to get around that.
Yeah, that was really impressive stuff from him to be able to get through that cleanly. I am very, very impressed.
So it was another checkup there that caused that, and it was from the 92 cars, a lane change up, effectively chopped the bumper of the 95. That caused him to stack up, and that is what really resulted in all of this mayhem towards the back end of the field. We'll try to find where the who that car was. It was the 92 of Ed Jurgen, I believe, that jumped bottom to top. This is going to be on board with him. Right there.
So there and that was the first contact. That's what caused the stack up through the field and forced that 3 wide, and then you see the rest of it there really start to fire off.
That 101 car took a very heavy shot up into the outside wall. I feel bad for the 101 machine of David Gainforth. Had nothing to do with that one. Was just trying to mind his own business, and it just fell apart as this is the looks from the static cameras as this was entering the tri-oval. It's a hard wreck, cross and start finish.
Yeah, very, very hard wreck there at that point.
So yellow flag number 4 on the afternoon, and we're looking like we're in pretty good shape so far for a good chunk of this field. And there's quite a few drivers at this point that I think have come to life. There's a few that have been up towards the front that we were not expecting earlier on in this race. I'm thinking mostly Kotska and Leung. They were both started way down in this field. They're plus 28 and 25 respectively. So good job from those 2 drivers to get their way to the point. Your pole sitter, though, of Bowman has been pretty much nowhere all race long, and in fact sits all the way back at 18th now.
Yeah, I mean, that's very surprising there for him to see him all the way back down through the field. Now, granted, he's going to have a chance to be able to make his way back up through, but still at the same time, that's not what he wanted to have happen here, and he's going to have to work. I mean, we've seen some relatively static positioning from this field. It's not like we've seen a lot of movement up and down, so he's going to be on the back foot here a little bit.
So Richardson will have the race lead, and Richardson, I think, is one of the only 2 drivers that has really been up at the front all race long. We haven't seen him go anywhere else. The other one is Jerry Isaacs. Richardson right now +1. Jerry Isaacs started 4th. He currently runs 4th, exactly where he was. They've been in the top 5 pretty much every single lap of this race. The only times when they weren't was when they were coming down into pit road for pit stops, but I think those are a little bit of an asterisk on those.
Yeah, those are a little bit of an asterisk. I mean, we have seen this dominant performance from these drivers up at the front of the field all day long. This is impressive stuff here from them. This team just looks like they are hooked up, like they are connected, like they know exactly what they need to be doing, and it is not out of the realm of possibility that they are going to be up at the front when this thing comes to an end.
It's a long way to go yet as well. You can already see the track being bathed in a bit more of an orange glow as the sun has begun to crest a little bit more towards the horizon. It was just, I think, about 3 p.m. in sim time when we began this race. It is about, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong because you're the one that has the in-game clock, but I think 4:45 thereabouts now?
It is 5:15 actually as it stands
so
right now. Yeah, you missed it by that much.
Half an hour. 1:45, we'll say I said 1:15. It'll be fine. Don't back up 30 seconds. Trust me. So it remains a Mad Sim Sports Spartan Racing top 3 at the moment. Richardson from Kotska from Leung. Pace car pulls down. 89 laps to go. We'll see if we can make it a bit longer this time by as we get back to green. The 86 car leading the way from the top shelf as Andrew Kotska trying to pull away from this pack. Right now, the 64 Richardson being pushed by his teammate Ken Leung. Jerry Isaacs trying to disrupt this party, though, by trying to get the 86 car clear and essentially force him, I think, down to the inside line because Richardson's got to realize if he does get clear with Jerry Isaacs, if he doesn't jump down to the inside, Isaac will soon do it for him. So these guys might be leading the race for now, but they might not lead this race forever.
Yeah, they may not lead this race forever as this is going to start getting. The one thing that I'm a little bit worried about here at this point is Finnemore almost gave a bad bump to the back there of Jerry Isaacs. That looked like it could have gotten really, really sketchy. He's trying to get some clean air onto the front of that Chevrolet, but it's just not working out a little bit. We are starting to see the bumping really amp up here at this point, Nolan. It is starting to get more and more aggressive.
Now the race in action certainly picking up in full force as, oh boy, this is starting to look more like an Xfinity Series race. The 80 car of Finnemore really squeezing cars down to the inside line. Oh no, look out into the outside wall. The pack scrambles. Do they survive? Still got 2 on the apron and a bit of 3 wide. How in the world did they not just junk the field?
That defies physics. That defies logic. I do not know how they just got through that cleanly.
They shouldn't have gotten through that clean. There is no way in hell that should have worked the way it did.
No, there is not, and I do not understand how they did. There's the contact with Isaacs up into the outside wall, 2 cars down on the apron, keeping the foot in it. Almost contact again with Isaacs there in Leung, and yet they still kept it going.
90% of the time, this ends in a monumental accident up into the outside wall. And that is probably how this race is going to close out, right? If it gets down to it with the side-by-side battle. That's usually what you would see coming off of turn 4, coming to the checkered flag.
Yeah, exactly. And somehow they kept that all together, and now they're learning a little bit more. Look at that. Everybody back in the line, running in single file here at this point. They're calming themselves down for the latter part of this race.
Sometimes you just need that little bit of a heart stop, you know, that bit of a jump start to kind of really get the picture. It's like, okay, that was fun, but let's not.
Yeah, let's avoid that craziness here at this point as they run. Not exactly the best in the world.
Well, the good news is they have managed to escape disaster for now. There is still a little bit of 2-wide action that's going on at the moment, but it's all towards the mid-pack, and this is what we're used to seeing, right? Just cars trying to establish runs on the outside. This time, George Cushman leading the way. Hello, what the heck is Chris Wheeler doing? Chris Wheeler way to the inside of the racetrack and gets back up with the 13. What happened there?
I'm not entirely sure what happened there. It looked like he was trying to sort himself out a little bit, and something just kind of got a little bit of foobar. Let's take a look at the replay here, figure this out. Oh, he got down onto the apron.
Yeah, that'll do it. The 13, again, the car running right behind him, Christian Delgado, absolutely did not have to let him back up. Once you're down on the apron, you have left the racing service. You do not need to be let back up. Delgado, again, did him an absolutely huge break by letting him in.
Yeah, he did, and probably by Delgado doing that saved us another incident here at this point. So credit there to Delgado. I think that shows, once again, we're still relatively early on in this race. We've got 80 laps to go, and it's not necessarily a situation where you've got to be pushing as hard as possible.
Wheeler now taking to the top side, thinking definitely wants to make sure he doesn't hit that apron again, so he's going to get as far away from it as possible. So he's going to link up to the top side, get in there with the 34 Tom Richters. They're going to try to push their way back to the point. And he's still got this 3-car train elsewhere that runs side by side, and they look to drive this one deep into turn numbers 1 and 2. The 7 looking to work to the outside line, and making some headway. Good job for just the 3 of them.
Yeah, that's not bad to see them run like that. I mean, I'm relatively impressed to see just 3 cars, able to make that kind of motion there up on the top side. The number 7 of Cushman leading that way. I wouldn't be surprised if we see cars like the 29 of Judd Danielson jump up there and try to join in on that train.
Oh, trouble behind. 2 cars going around. 3, 4, 5. Here we go. The big one, part 3. As we enter the tri-oval, there's a whole host of cars involved. William Kern is among them. Chris Letts is involved. Connor Dudek is in there. And more as we slow it back down for the 5th caution of the night.
All right, there we're going to get it down again here at this point. Here as they go, that is going to be our 5th caution with about 80 laps to go. Let's take a look at the replay, find out exactly what happened here.
Oh, Chris Wheeler came down, got into the 62 and I think the 19 and spun to 31, and it's just on from there.
Yeah, and really nowhere for the rest of that field to go, unfortunately. So much commotion up at the front.
A lot of commotion going on. How about that? The 101 did a good job of locking that car down. I think one car may have actually slammed the inside wall. We're right about at 62 of Jason Dinsmore. This is coming off of turn number 4. Oh, we got hit from behind. Oh, yeah, that might be a penalty for pit road.
Yeah, pit lane speeding penalty. As iRacing does not monitor that as it comes on in. When you dive down into pit lane like that, let's take another look at this here. See the 21, and there it is, all just taking place in front. Oh, so many cars getting tore up there coming through the tri-oval.
Yeah, there's a good chunk of drivers that were having a really good run that got involved in that one, which is a big shame. But for the most part, I think not as bad as it could have been. Not ideal, but it could have been worse. And the O2 again getting involved. Man, it has not been Croak's night at all.
No, it really and truly hasn't. He is just, it seems like every time we have an incident, he's there.
No kidding. Just always found in exactly the wrong places for this. So I want to give him absolutely massive credit for being able to keep his car alive the way it has. I mean, he has been put through the ringer tonight. The fact that he is still running, I think, is a huge testament to that machine.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there on that. It's really pretty impressive that he is able to keep going as he is here at this point. That car has been really, really beat up, really, really attacked here hard. And the fact that he's just keeping on, and just keeps beating like the Energizer Bunny is impressive in and of itself. Yep, so he is going to be there. Kotska is the one that's really impressed me. He's your big mover of the day, up 29 positions there. That is a very, very impressive run. As you can also see there on your screen, 16 laps since our last pit stop here. So that does mean that we got plenty of time here before these drivers are going to need to come back in again, doing a little bit of that math backwards, probably looking at about 2 more stops before everything's said and done.
I'm a bit curious here on this one, actually, because we saw them come down after just a 21-lap stint, right? That was at about... Yeah, that was at lap 60 that first yellow flag came out of this one. These guys have been out for 16. That's not that far off. Why do you think we're not seeing so many of them come on down for a second time here in this one?
I think at this point they don't want to give up track position. I think that's really and truly what it is. Especially with the leaders here, Kotsko, Richardson, and Leong, they don't want to give up that run up at the front of the field here at this point, and so they're going to want to keep up in the front and keep things going right now, and why they're going to have to see themselves in that position.
I kind of agree with you on that one. I mean, we are not... We're starting to get closer to that point where you can't afford to give up that track position if you can help it, right? I mean, if you wanted to gamble on a strategy, it should have been done earlier. Right now, you're pretty much locked in with whatever strategy you got. You've made your bet, you got to lay in it. I hope that a caution can get you back on the cycle with what strategy you want to take.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're going to find that strategy is going to become more and more variable as things go in. Once again, counting backwards from the end of this race.
Coming on up on Green Flag TV, the ASRL Next Gen Cup Series swings out to Summit Point Raceway for a bit of a Club Series style race. 7:25 p.m. Eastern Time. That will be later tonight. DJ, you'll be back in the booth with me again for some more stock car action, as if you didn't get enough over the last 12 hours. Then February 6th, the OMSRL Truck Series will swing out to the Pocono Raceway at 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time. As they will close out the first salvo of races before their off week for the Daytona 500. And then, of course, the Beer League makes its return to the championship, and it'll be at Phillip Island for race number 5 at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time on February 7th on Wednesday night. And Austin Edstrom will be back in the booth with me for Wednesday night racing as well. Coming to green this time by.
Coming to green this time by. Let's see how these drivers up at the front of the field decide to control the pace. We've got 2 teammates starting on the inside and on the outside.
Andrew Kotska takes it to the restart zone. Green flag is out, and we are back underway. Good getaway that time by from the outside line as we hightail it towards turn 1.
Yeah, and interesting there that he chose to dive down on the low side there, hooking up with the teammate. I would have thought that they'd actually want to control the field a little bit more and run both high and low, but clearly that's not on the strategy here today.
Well, it's better than going double file like the rest of the pack is towards the tail end, as they are running side by side, and already they have lost 0.7 of a second up to the race leaders who are running single file, 7th on up to 1st. I'm thinking we might not be far away from caution number 6.
Yeah, things are a little bit crazy here at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that as well. Big breakaway up at the front of the field, but we are side by side farther back in the field here at this point.
The side-by-side action starts about 8th and starts to slip further back. Now, the main train of this pack has broken clear, so they're able to run down the leaders. They'll be up there again before too long, so they've not seen a full break, but we may very well might. Cody Meadows was leading the charge on the top side and has since lost almost 10 positions, dropping through the field.
Yep, they're going to be falling down here at this point. Ooh, big movement down to the low side here as they go. Looks like drivers trying to sort themselves out here a little bit, trying to figure out where they want to be running here as they try to get everything sorted out.
So they will get it back in line down on the inside line. Andrew Kotska still leading the way with Cody Richardson behind in the number 2 spot. Jerry Isaac still running 3rd with Connor Hazel and Ken Leung back in 4th and 5th. As this pack continues to shake up, they have now all caught up, so we are now one giant train once again from 1st all the way back to 27th. All tucked up in one giant line, thunder down the back straightaway. Pit stops anticipated them just shy of 50 laps to go.
Yep, that should be it. And that 50 laps to go, once again, that means that we're going to have 2 pit stops that we need. So I think if we see another yellow here at this point, probably going to be the majority of the field that decides to come down into pit lane as they roll. And it's going to be the question of the rest of the field, what they decide to do and how they decide to sort things out.
Take a look at the 6 car at the moment of Corey Sherman, just leading a huge charge up to the outside. We just saw Sherman involved in that big one coming through the tri-oval, and now made up about 7 spots in just turns 3 and 4 alone, although that momentum will now stall out as it hit the back straightaway once again. That 92, not confident, it looks like. Oh, that's okay. I got a bit nervous there. I thought for a moment he was going to get right rear hooked into the wall.
Yeah, I did too. That was not a good bump there at that point. That's not what you want to see. They've got to be a little bit cleaner in this. They try to run this.
The further we get into this race, the more nervous I get for this field because it's been such a fantastic race so far. And I genuinely do believe that this race could very well, it could go either way, right? I want this race to have a phenomenal green flag finish, but if you get those late race cautions, it's just as likely this race could end under yellow. Remember, only 1 green-white checkered attempt, so it's not, you don't get a lot of chances to get a do-over.
Well, you read my mind about that. Only 1 green-white checker attempt means that this is going to really raise the stakes for a lot of these drivers and push up the temperature on them. But right now, everybody looking like they're in line. They're working together. Ooh, that was a little bit of a sketchy bump between Richardson and Kotska there as they came down through the tri-oval, but they're going to be able to hook up and together. Once again, though, I like what I see out of this field. We're not seeing a lot of this crazy 2-wide action. It's much more in tune. It's much more together in the way that they run, and they're running pretty cleanly here with a few little outliers here and there.
Still a bit of discombobulation going on towards the tail end of the field. All the organization right now has been within the top 15. These guys have been, I think, the class act of the field, and that's why we've even seen so many of these wrecks not take out more drivers, is because all of the carnage has been in the back of the field where everybody's just being impatient, right? Everybody here has been trying to push their way to the front for a very long time, and it hasn't been working, and that frustration will continue to grow and grow and grow the more this race goes on. And we're at the point now, right, where the sun is going to be setting, which really puts even a visual indicator that you don't have much time left.
Yeah, and that's going to amp things up a little bit for him. The other thing that's going to be a problem is, sketchy move down on the line there for that Buc-ee's machine, is that coming down into the tri-oval off of turn 4, that sun's going to be right in your eyes. So if you're planning on making a lane switch there at that point, that's going to be blinding into your face. And if you've got a driver making a lane switch in front of you, oy, that could be very sketchy.
So Kotska going to be trying to make a charge to the race lead with Richardson still pushing him, keeping him out in the point, but nobody behind. At this point in time, really trying to disrupt matters as it's been fairly organized up at the front end of the field. You're right aboard with Trevor Ryan out of Irwin, Pennsylvania, running 6th place at the moment for the TT Race Machine as he has been trying to, I think, just break into the top 5, but again, there isn't too much urgency yet. We are still over the amount of laps to go that most official races at Daytona run. So I don't think we're really going to be seeing a lot of the anticipation kickoff. I'm thinking within the last 20 is when we'll see this race really get crazy.
Yeah, I think that's about right. That's really when we're going to start to see a little bit more of that start to amp up here, is when it gets down into that stint.
Second pack headed up by Kendon Cook. The drivers just collected in that latest incident in the tri-oval. William Kern is in with them, but another driver that got the worst of that mess. Coleridge, Fenimore, Christian Delgado, Richter, Sherman, Jurgen, and more, all packed up line of stern. Now, they are single file, but just like we've seen time and time again, it's too little too late. Once you've lost that draft to the front, it is so difficult, even as a whole pack like this, to catch back up. The most you can do, pretty much, is just not lose more time.
Yeah, you don't want to lose more time here as they run. You really and truly need to just try to keep yourself up as much as possible.
So Cook staying with it, and up to the top side goes the 31. I don't think they were happy with how Cook was running up in the lead, so the entire lane going to abandon the 95 at the bottom. But you saw how much speed was lost instantly by how much Cook was dependent on these guys. That really shows just how damaged that car actually is by how far that car fell in such a big hurry and how dependent it was on keeping up speed just by these other guys else. I'm willing to bet we're going to be seeing an actual closing of the gap here before too long.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I mean, with him out of the question here at this point, William Kern up at the front of the field, it looks like the 80 and Kern, with Finnemore and Kern, are looking in good form here at this point, and they may be able to get that push on. Kern trying to get some clean air to the nose through the corner. We talked about that earlier. We've seen some drivers blow the engines earlier, so you got to be careful about that. They're doing a good job here at this point, keeping everything together, and let's see what they're able to do.
I only wish it mattered. They were at 2.8 seconds before they got around Richter. They did make it up to 2.7 initially, but it's since dropped to 3.2. Although I say that, it did just close back up to 2.5. So there's been a big stack up in the field here. And in fact, Cody Meadows has kind of dropped off from this group, as has the 50 car of Connor Dudek. They might have just lost the draft with a big stack of entering turn 3.
There it is. That may have been it. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, with Meadows falling back through the pack, that only puts them 2.5 seconds. They're going to be getting a little bit of whiff of that draft. They could use Meadows as a way to actually jump themselves up through the field here. That's not out of the realm of possibility.
I'm trying to get a look back, if I can, to see what caused them to drop off so far. This is going to be... Oh, hello. They may have clipped the apron here, you know? Yeah, right there. Look at that huge stack up entering turn 3. That's what happened.
Yep, just a little bit of bumping gone awry there at that point, and there you see him come down on in. That's exactly what happened. Great call there, Nolan. Is now looks like the 101 Gainworth going to be down into pit lane.
Gainworth already multiple laps down in this field. He is down 1, could be down 2 if he doesn't get out of pit road quickly here. In fact, he probably will go down 2. Fuel... tires going on the 101 car as well. So the spam machine is going to be backed out and away as Andrew Kotzka runs in first. And, well, they're double filed again. So that's going to ruin this guy's run.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, that's not going to go out well. I don't love that necessarily, but let's see what they do. Only one car up to the high side here at this point. They're going to try to get their way back on through. But that gap's 3.8 seconds. That's going to be tough.
So the 31 continuing to lead the way for a moment as Finnemore kind of getting into the back end and nearly hooking that 31 car around. 135 laps to go. Kind of reference our pit strategy once more for the top 10. We are now 31 laps in, so that tells me we are about 10 laps away, pretty much on the dot from pit stops.
Yep, that's about exactly what it is here at this point. See, though, how that's going to fire out and what is going to be the case here for they go. As we work our way on through, we watch the leading group all worked up together here on a good run. They're still continuing to get everything right.
So the 86 going to try to power through to the point as racing action continues. And at this, the strategy, the way it's looking right, we're going to have one more run of a full pit stop run. I'm imagining tires going to be taken on this next set of pit stops when we get back in within about the next 8-9 laps or so. However, after that, we're going to be left with only a splash and go. These guys are going to be in the pit road. They might only be in the box for about 2-3 seconds before they take off again. They only need fuel to get them an extra 10-15 laps once they come in for that last pit stop of the night.
Yeah, exactly. Take tires on this stop, wait, and don't take them on the last one because it's going to be that. What's going to be interesting is maybe if we'll see a driver or two opt to, depending on how the strategy goes, especially if we're going to be down in pit lane on a yellow flag period, maybe they'll take 2 tires. We talked about that the left sides tend to wear a little bit more here at Daytona than they do at other places around the NASCAR schedule, so we'll have to see what they decide to do in terms of that regard.
So Kotzka will continue to lead the way as Cody Richardson runs in that number 2 spot. You got Jerry Isaacs in the fray as well, as we're going to try to get things sorted. The 101 going to be moving up to the top side. That was, of course, Dave Gainforth, who we saw come into pit road. He was already off cycle, so Gainforth going to I think he might be able to tuck in with this leading pack, and if he does, that is great news for him. It stops bleeding, makes sure he doesn't go down and lose any more time.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly what he wants to have happen. He wants to tuck up behind this group. Now, remember, he is going to be 3 laps down, so he's not really at liberty to get the lucky dog here at this point. He needs a lot of help if he wants to get back onto the lead lap and be in contention for even a top 10, top 20 finish at this point.
So Gainforth will just tag on to the tail end of this main group, and the rest of the field still running that single file train. The second pack, there's a good visual representation of how far off they are. This is the frustrating part for the second group, right? They're close enough where they can see them in the distance, but they're not close enough where they can actually catch up to them. In fact, you just saw them disappearing around turns 1 and 2. It's frustrating, right, to see it's like they are right there, and you can practically taste the draft, but you're just that far back, and you can't just make a move.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you're just praying that somehow you're able to get a good bump, you're able to get a good draft, you're able to close up a little bit more, and it's just not able to happen. And there's not really, you know, it's not like IndyCar racing where you're able to do a little bit of leapfrogging to try to get your way forward up in the field. There's really nothing you can do at this point. You are just kind of hopeless to try to close on in, and it is a very, very disappointing and frankly frustrating feeling.
It is a frustrating feeling, and I've been in that position multiple times in plate racing, right? And I feel like a lot of drivers have been in this position before, right? That frustration of knowing that we could be up there, but we're not. And I can almost guarantee you, I'm not sure if they have open voice comms in this race, but in a lot of these situations, there are going to be drivers that will be yelling at each other over the radios, asking, what are you doing? Like, we need to be single file. We need to be working together. You're not helping us. You're being a hindrance. And, in fact, the 34 car, as I say, being a good example of that. Tom Richter worked his way around the outside, and look at how much that backs the field up.
Yeah, really chunks him up here at this point, and that's going to grow the gap up to 7.5 seconds right now. That's what we're seeing out of that gap. Is there we're going to try a little bit of too wide. I mean, you might as well try for it. Try anything you can do here to get that gap to go. The 30 going to push their way up for him, and that's Kimmel right now, trying to see if he's got anything. He's got the that's the 8 behind him, giving him a little bit of a push in the form of Cody Meadows.
Cody Meadows, a driver that was looking to make that charge to the front early on. Remember, early in this green flag run, tried to establish that run at the top side, got up to about 9th overall, but then slipped back when he lost that momentum, and a lot of drivers bailed out to the bottom side, and now finds himself relegated to the second pack. There is one car way up the road with a broken, a missing front clip. That, I think, I have no idea who that is. I'm going to be completely real. I completely lost track of which car that was, but there's a car that is about to go down a lap who is not in the best of ways right now.
Yeah, and that happens here. You get that many cars running around the track, and you just kind of lose track of them here every now and again because of the way that everything plays out. There we see him moving down the track, giving a nice wide berth to that car that they're about to lap here at this point. Everything just playing out. We are 48 laps away from the finale of this race, trying to hold it in here as they go. There it is. That's the number 44 machine. That's going to be Ray Richer.
Finally locked onto it. I don't have to click through all the lap cars anymore to find which one it is. But yeah, Ray Richer with no front clip. Again, just in survival mode like so many other drivers with damage are at this point. He's got to keep an eye on that because that front clip, even though it's still present and you think there's ventilation, there's still going to be a rise in temperatures on that car. And in fact, I had a similar situation back in the Gen 6 cars. I was running my own version of the Majors Daytona 500. Got taken out, had to rip the whole front nose off, spent about 10 minutes getting damages repaired, left pit road, and it took all of 20 seconds for the engine to overheat and expire.
Yeah, exactly, because when you see that clip ripped off, that means that there is more damage on the car. That means that there are little bits and bobbles in there that are twisted around a little bit. And yes, it may seem like that there is just more air being able to set onto it there as it runs, but that's not really the case because of those little wires, those little airways that are going to be twisted up a little bit. That's going to change things up. That's not going to be the ideal performance, and it is indeed going to potentially overheat the car.
So one driver to potentially keep an eye on will, of course, be Tom Richard to see if he's going to be able to make that car back around and hopefully get a caution to bring that thing in, get it a little bit more repaired. We are approaching that final pit stop mark. We are only going to be about 5-ish laps away, if that, at this point. Anytime now, we're going to be seeing this whole field come down to pit road for the second to last stop of the night.
Yeah, we are currently on lap 41 of the pit stop cycle here at this point. That means that we're going to be getting closer and closer to that run, as there we see the leaders working their way on through. That's Croaky and Cook up on the high side that they're clearing by. Thankfully that it is the preferred side to be running low here, because that means if they want to peel off down to pit lane, they're going to be able to do it.
Another trio of lap cars going down one as 55 laps are remaining on the docket for us here this evening. One more time, check the pit strategy. 42, that's about as long as we went the last time on a set of pit stops, so quite literally we're expecting them in this time by.
Yeah, they're going to be in this time by is what I have to imagine that they are going to be doing here. So we'll keep our eyes open. We'll see what they're able to do. Yeah, I've got to imagine that we're going to see a whole flurry of these cars come on in. There's no real reason to try to stretch this out a little bit more if they want to. I'm not entirely sure what the difference would be making here at this point, but let's see. Kotska, Richardson with a little bit of an advantage. Are they going to dive down into pit lane? I haven't seen anything talked about here in the chat. No, they've got a little bit more in the tank. Under caution. Yep, that's a good call. All right, as they continue on here at this point, we need to see. All right, maybe now we're going to see a little bit of a run. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few. Looked like a couple of them trying to feint down to the inside, but nobody deciding to go for it here at this point. So they're all going to be coming on in and keeping their way around. Let's look at that backpack, see if they're going to be doing anything there.
Oh, well, the 13 gets loose, but he's not going to commit to the inside line. So no thoughts yet. Again, we're in that game of chicken, and this is a critical game of chicken, right? These could very well end up being the money stops. I know a lot of people will say it'll be the last pit stops that'll be the money stops. Well, these are the last ones where you're taking tires, and this one sets you up for that final stop and how much fuel you have to take.
Yeah, exactly. This is the one that's going to set everything up here at this point. Fade down to the inside. Here they come.
Finally into pit road. This time by is about half of that leading group. In fact, all bar the top 5 are in and able to get in with no consequences. So looking like a fairly solid pit entry there from everyone all around. The second pack will continue to stay out for a little bit more. Well, Cody Richardson leads the field into pit road.
All right, here they go, and just as expected, Richardson up onto the jacks, taking 4 tires here at this point. That'll be about a 15-second pit stop for him and the rest of the field.
Some drivers already leaving pit road. This is going to be tight on the exit, but Richardson will manage to best them out. Should be then leading that train out of pit road and into turn number 1. Now here's George Cushman now leading the field. He will stay out one more. The 43, though, coming into pit road.
Well, and that's not altogether surprising. Cushman's been able to run in the middle of the pack here for the majority of this race, meaning that he's going to be able to save that fuel. 43 going to be able to come on into pit lane here at this point. That is Eric Anderson. Jamie Horn also into pit lane as everything gets shuffled around here at this point.
Trouble for one car, I think, potentially. Yeah, the 34 car of Tom Richter was into the grass and slid into pit road. So big problems for Richter on pit entry.
Yeah, undoubtedly there. That's going to be a little bit of a problem. He'd probably pick up a pit lane speeding penalty as a result of that.
Gosh, that is not pleasant in the slightest, and we kind of caught it a little bit late. Here's a better look at this one, though, as what in the world? That's a wheel failure. That wheel turned hard left.
Oh, dearie dear. That's what got him out there. And for those unfamiliar, that is a hardware failure on the iRacing system. That means that your actual components that you have strapped to your desk or your rig at home had a problem, and that's what broke him out.
Right on board. Watch this wheel. Yep. That's why we saw him blinking out as well, right at the same time.
Yep, that's exactly what it was. Great call there on that, Nolan.
That would have gone when you get an incident like that, when you're close to pit road like that, it goes one of two ways. Option A, we see what happened. The car turns hard left, slides into pit road, and it almost looks like a botched pit entry. Option 2, that car turns hard right into the outside wall, and we get caution number 7.
Yeah, exactly. And we're pretty lucky that we were able to escape with what we saw there out on the track. So got to say that that's pretty good there for him to be able to have that happen. More pit stops cycling around here at this point, as it looks like Bowen, Carey, and Kimo going to be leading the field here right now as they run, courtesy of their pit stop on the last caution.
So one thing I want to point out, for Jacob Brown and a lot of these other drivers, they actually might be on an ideal strategy here, because these guys pitted under the last caution that we had. They've only been out there for 30 laps. They could make this on a one-stop.
Yeah, they could. The problem is that Bowen is out by his lonesome. He's got 13 seconds on the rest of the field here at this point, so he's going to find himself in rough position to try to catch back up. But you're right. They could play this pit strategy absolutely to perfection here. They still got about probably 10 laps to go on this pit cycle.
You're actually looking at Jacob Bowen right now, the race leader. He is in traffic, but it's a lot of lapped traffic that's right behind him. So all of these cars that you see behind, these are either cars that just exited pit road or they're laps down, which is why he is not losing any time to the cars behind. This is the second place runner, Justin Carey, who we saw sideways on the backstretch just leaving turn 2. And this is really your second big train, and they have a bit of a gap all to themselves. Oh, this is really curious. This race has just kicked in overdrive.
Yeah, as it would be said, this is very, very interesting here at this point to see what's going to happen. The strategy that we thought was going to be the winning strategy may not be.
Time continues to run on out, and I can tell you right now, this race is going to be absolutely wild in the closing stages here of this one. You've got just under 50 laps to go. We're going to take one more step back, and we'll be back with the final 50 laps in just a moment. You're watching the 4th annual Cyber 500 on Green Flag TV. More cars coming into pit road. Christian Delgado, William Kern, Coleridge Finnemore, and Justin Carrier into pit road. These are all the drivers we were just talking about that they could make it on a one-stop with only 39 laps to go and over 40 laps on this stint. They are now good to the checkered flag. They're now just hoping that another caution doesn't come out to disrupt the strategy.
Yeah, and crucially here, look at this. They're all coming out in a group here, Nolan. That is going to be absolutely crucial when it comes down to keeping up your speed and keeping them in contention for this race. The fact that they were able to come out in a group is mega for all of these drivers.
And remember, everybody else, like right now, Jerry Camelli, they all have yet to come down to pit road one more time. They last stopped on 119. They are not good to go to the end. We'll take one more look here at the ongoing pit strategies that we've got here in this race. Right now, 43 laps for Camelli and Moore. They're going to be in any time now to come back down to the lane. That should cycle Kotska back through to the race lead.
Yeah, that should give him back to the race lead. It'll be interesting to see what he and his teammates do at this point to be able to get themselves into good position. But let's wait and see exactly what will happen now that this cycling has gone around. There we look up at the front of the field. It is Kotska and Isaacs who's been up there as well. More drivers taking their turn down pit lane, though. Jurgen, Bowman, Sherman, and Kiemel.
So Kotska, 15 laps currently on the stint. That is not nearly enough to make it to the end. He's going to be about 10 laps shy on the field numbers. So Kotska for sure will have to come down and into pit road. And at this point, that puts Jacob Bowen at the moment in this 2-car as the net race leader.
Yep, that will be his net race lead here at this point. Man, Nolan, this is absolutely turning into a fascinating race towards the end. We were talking about this at break. Kind of hope this thing doesn't go yellow here at this point because we've got so many strategy combinations and permutations to play out. It's absolutely incredible.
And one other thing that we were talking about, in particular to Bowen here, right? The fact that he was packed up with a whole bunch of lead lap cars or lap cars that he was able to work with. Well, most of those cars have just abandoned him. So that 13-second lead, which is now up to a 16-second, it still might be about a 13-second lead for at least for back towards that second pack. Right now, that gap is going to be absolutely tumbling because he is about to lose the draft here for these top two. He is being run down right now by that second train. So Bowen, granted, he may be the net race leader. He is not safe in that position, though.
No, he is not safe in that position by any stretch of the imagination because he needs more help to be around him. Right now, he's really only got Richter and a Wheeler to be running with, and they're not playing nice up around him.
This is one of the longest green flag runs we have now had all race long. Trying to track where the next closest driver is, it would be Ed Jurgen. So right now, Ed Jurgen is the next closest driver here in this pack, and at the moment, that is looking to be 19 seconds back. So right now, there's a 19-second gap between Bowen and Jurgen. Jurgen running net P2, we believe. It's a bit complicated with how all the pit stops shake on out, but right now, the driver that runs in 13th, we anticipate could very well take this lead over from Bowen when the final pit stops roll around.
Yeah, very well could. We're just going to have to wait and see. That's the position that we're in here at this point.
Now, one other thing I want to mention with Bowen up at the front of the field, he is now he's gotten a few more cars, so he will stop the bleeding. But you see how he actually is now no longer leading this train? That was strategic. He ducked out of line and deliberately faded to the back because while he has the possibility to go to the end, he was not safe to go to the end. He was right on the line of what he can make it, so he decided, best idea, get back in line. I'm not racing these guys anyway. May as well just use them to save some fuel.
Yeah, I mean, save fuel. That's going to be less fuel that you've got to put in during the pit stops. It's less time you have got to be stationary down pit lane. That is going to be correct. That's a brilliant strategy to play.
Well, granted, we're thinking Bowen might not have to make another pit stop if he can save enough fuel. He might be right on the line of being able to make it to the end.
Yeah, he might, and that's a good point. If he can make this work, that's going to trade everything around.
But again, that caveat, the cars around him guaranteed cannot everyone around him has to make at least one more pit stop, which is why we know that Bowen's lead is going to be annihilated later in this race. But for now, Kotska still leads the way, albeit 10 to 15 laps shy on the fuel numbers.
Yep, so he's got a little bit. He's going to need to run a little bit longer than everything else. He's going to need to have a little bit of a different change here. Let's see if he can make anything play.
We're getting close to that point where we were both predicting this race result's going to kick off on the aggression factor too, right? It's not far off where these drivers are going to start to make moves to get to the front. But I think we might even be waiting a little bit, maybe until even 10 to go now, because a lot of these drivers, they're now in their own separated battle packs. For example, for, well, let's say Chris Letts runs in 11th. Why make a move now when you're 30 to go? You have no chance on getting to the lead lap guys because you're so far off the pace. It's just worth it to just bide your time.
Yeah, I think, and that's going to be the big storyline of this race. Bide your time. We've been saying it since the beginning, but 32 to go. Bide your time and wait for this pit stop cycle to play itself out. We've still got to wait to see how that's going to do everything.
31 laps to go. Out of the 36 cars that began this race right now, we've only got about 32 on the racetrack as of right now, out of which only 20 are still on the lead lap. So a good chunk of the field still packed up with it. A lot of the guys that encountered a lot of those troubles early on, they were lucky enough that they did not, it wasn't ever race ending. A lot of the hits that we saw weren't too hard, so the damage was easily fixable. But the writing's on the wall now for a lot of the drivers that were further down. Right there, you saw William Kern, the last driver on the lead lap, compared to Kotska, who is your leader as it stands.
Yep, that's what it is. 42 seconds off of the leader here at this point. That's how far down he is.
And we are going to be racing into the sunset at this point as well, as the stadium lights, I think, just flicked on over the Daytona International Speedway. So it's not long before we will really see this race enter the darkness. And yep, there you go. The stadium lights did indeed just click on. So if the sun will be setting for too long, and that weather continuing to drop, it's now a pretty chilly 81 degrees. In iRacing, track temps don't ever get too much colder than that.
No, they really don't. And thankfully here at this point, the tires are going to be up to temperature, so you're not going to have to worry too much about that as they work their way around. They're going to be in a good operating window here at this point, and I don't think we're going to have to worry too much about any tire maladies coming back to play here at this point. But at the same time, it's something to keep an eye on. It's something to be aware of for these drivers that you don't want to have to be running with cool track temperatures, that if you do decide to take tires in this last run, which again we don't think anybody's going to do, then you're going to be in a position where you're going to have to worry about those track temperatures.
Chris Letts and Dalton Carter both coming into pit road. This is for their final pit stops here of the afternoon, so they will not have to make another stop before the end of this race. They are good to go all the way through to the end now. And they will not have to spend the entirety of their pit stops filled in that field either, because they do not have to take a full tank of gas to make it. So the pit strategy officially kicks off in earnest. This will be a 5-stop race for most. For others, 6, 7, possibly 8 stops if you factor in cautions under the pit stops as well.
Yep, that's exactly what it's going to be. Yep. Just got to figure that out, do a little bit of the math there on that. But right now, Kotska continuing to lead up at the front of the field. We've got some drivers headed out of the track right now. Everybody just working their way around. We still anticipate probably another pit stop there for Kotska. Drivers down into pit lane. Gainforth, Dudek, Richter, some of them down there with long damage. It looks like it's just Gainforth in the 101 making a scheduled pit stop.
And Gainforth making a scheduled stop. He'll be out with a 13.55-second stop. Right now, Dudek has been in the box for 6.5 minutes. He has effectively done. Ray Richer has been in there for 2 minutes. He is out of it. It's even worse, unfortunately, for Music, who's been in there for over 10 minutes and is still kind of down and effectively out. He has been, in fact, he's been in there for an hour and 2 minutes. He pitted way back on lap 97, remember, and is down. Oh, here we go. The leaders coming into pit road right before they catch lap traffic. Wanted nothing to do with that. They will bail out. This is the money stops for these guys on the evening.
Yes, it is. It is all down to the virtual pit crews here at this point. And for these drivers, they are going to be hoping for a little bit of help, I think, to be able to make it to the end in terms of the track positioning, because there is the likes of Judd Danielson, George Cushman, and, of course, Bowen, who is the driver in that group that is able to make it to the end.
Jacob Bowen is going to be your net race leader. He will cycle through to the lead of this race. He'll cycle through to third place overall. Danielson and Cushman are in this group as well, but they pitted on lap 150. We do not expect for them to be able to make it unless they're able to save 10 laps of fuel. So Bowen, as it stands, still is the net race leader in this race. Ed Jurgens still net P2 and still down by 20 seconds. That's about half a lap. Now, while it is definitely possible for them to catch up to Bowen pretty quickly, they're only going to have 5 to 10 laps to do it. Is that enough for Bowen to hang on?
It depends on some of this lap traffic and who bails when. If he's got 3 or 4 cars around him, and just 3 or 4 cars around him here, Nolan, he's going to be able to pull that off. But remember, they are going to lose the likes of Danielson, Cushman, Anderson around him, as they're going to need to come down into pit lane before that happens. That's still going to leave him, I think, the likes of Richter and Wheeler. As I look through here, yes, they should be able to make it to the end. Potentially Donahue as well. He may be able to make it to the end. And Dalton Carter in 23rd, he's definitely going to make it to the end. That's 4 cars. I think there's a chance he can pull this off.
Dalton Carter and Chris Letts are further down. They are off of this pack. They just came into pit road. However, again, because they have got themselves in a 2-car string, if Bowen does find himself alone, they can catch up to him and potentially give him a bit of a helping hand. So at this point, who knows? Remember, of course, Cushman and Racer, they are 2 of the drivers that we are waiting on to duck down and into pit road. So Danielson, I think, is one of the big drivers that might find himself in trouble. These guys are going to be cycling themselves out well outside of the top 20 by the time you take this run. And in fact, looking back to where Cody Richardson is, he went from leading this race for most of this race down to running 27th a lap down, and he might not get that back.
Yeah, he may not here at this point. I mean, that's just the kind of running that you can see here when we talk about these style of races. If the pit stop strategy just catches you out, it doesn't matter how good or fast or well-placed you are. Got to be there at the end. And Richardson just doesn't look like he's going to be unless something happens to help him out here. Yeah, and it bit him big time when we talk about drivers like Bowen, who had, contact into the outside wall. Yeah, I'm not sure who that was. It looked like a black machine there at that point, so clearly no caution out on track, so we can at least escape through that. But, that had a very, very scary tone there for Jacob Bowen, who does not want anything. I think that was the number 27. I think that was Connor Hazel.
It was indeed Connor Hazel as the driver that just found himself into the outside wall. Let's take a look back at this one. This is going to be exiting turn numbers 3 and 4 as Connor Hazel working his way around the racetrack. He was at the back end of this pack as he this is when they're already lapping these cars. We know this happened this time by off of 4.
All right, so here he goes. He drifts up a little bit. You see him move down the track there, a little bit more movement in front. Does he get a bad bump from behind potentially? Yep.
That's a hard lick at the outside wall too. That could have broken the toe a little bit.
Yeah, it could have.
Well, didn't break the toe, but he has definitely got some engine troubles, and that car slowing up pretty heftily coming into turn number 3 has lost the draft, so chalk down one more car that is down and out of the fight. Danielson still leads with Cushman second, Bowen third. Bowen, the one driver that we believe is safe to make it to the end out of this leading pack.
All right, so here we go. One more driver that's going to put him on the back foot, but Kotska's still 5.7 seconds behind here at this point as they run.
So Jacob Bowen continuing to drive this one through and home. He's got some cars around to work with him, and I think that's been the one thing that has been really saving Bowen's race. He knows if he gets caught by himself, he may very well be in big trouble by the time we get to the end of this race. Right now, he is hoping this pack stays with him for as long as is physically possible before these guys come down and into pit road.
Yeah, and they've got about 10 more laps to be able to do that, so it should be relatively okay for him as he runs. Let's see here at this point. Is he going to be able to make this play? Is this going to go anywhere? Let's see.
Checking in on where Ed Jurgen is. This is going to be our net second place runner. Currently sits in 11th, and in fact, they just got around Hazel, one of the drivers that was in that leading pack, lost touch after being hooked into the wall, so Hazel's going to drop back, so put Jurgen now into a top 10 position. I'm really nervous about this second pack, I'm going to be honest, because I think these guys are all the ones that are battling for position, right? I think we might get a caution from these guys before the end of this race, and that would just, it'd be a real mood killer on our strategy play.
Yeah, it really would. If we get a caution here, it's going to absolutely throw everything that we've been so excited about out the window.
The possibility is very much there. So we'll see how time runs out. Right now, 18 laps to go. I don't know. I genuinely do not know. This is going to get wild in a hurry.
Yeah, this is going to get real crazy. When these cars peel off down in pit lane, that is going to be the question here, is if Bowen is able to still keep up that speed around him. That is going to be the real decider.
Strategy races are some of my favorite races. Well, okay, yes, exciting races and photo finishes, they cannot be beat. I mean, this is I mean, let's be honest, photo finishes are nice and flashy, right? But strategy races have all of that story behind them and all the lead up to it. It makes it much more of a bigger spectacle to look at, and a much more memorable race, if you ask me as well, because it's something that will stick with you for a long time, knowing it was not a fluke. I made a good call. That's what got me a win.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just your racing prowess necessarily. It's also the ability of yourself to be able to put yourself in good position, to be able to calculate strategy on the fly. We have to remember that's one of the things that really separates sim racing from real life racing sometimes, is in the sim, you don't have that engineering and strategy team that you do behind the scenes that you would in real life. You're doing this by yourself sometimes, and so that really shows just how impressive it is.
Ed Jurgen still leading the way in the second pack. Corey Sherman, we believe, will cycle through into third. Now, Cody Richardson still sits down in that 27th position, although in a pretty big pack of cars. And in fact, I think is this the pack that Bowen's in as well?
Yes, it is.
There you go. Well, isn't that something? I mean, let's be honest, they were probably going to cycle together anyway at some point, but that's a bit ironic almost that Richardson is helping a driver that's been an underdog to win all race long by just being in this pack.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the fun of it here, is when you get into this, if you know you're not going to be able to do it, you find yourself in a position where you may be able to turn things around here a little bit.
I tell you what, every time I see these guys making moves like this, I know I'm not talking too much right now. I'm just enthralled by what I'm seeing. And every move that I see, I worry that we're going to get that final caution, and we could very well see this race just fall apart, especially now that we are near pit stop windows, right? We are at that range now where our final stops of the day are going to be kicking off. The window's effectively open. We're just waiting now for these next 10 laps or so to see who's going to bail on the pit road, and Eric Anderson will be the first in the 43.
Yep, he's going to be the first one here at this point. So there goes the 43 down pit lane. Now the pack around him is going to sync themselves back up here at this point. So they're going to get everything to run. They're going to be continuing to get everything to go. Let's see, though, if they're going to be able to keep up the speed. The gap is still 7.6 seconds, and George Cushman starting to close on the back of this pack as well.
Kotzka has gone back to the point of this race as Isaacs and Moore have managed to run down Ryan, Danielson, and Moore. So they are now back to the point as Andrew Kotzka is now up to the race lead. Jerry Isaacs is up there as well. And they last stopped on lap 174, so they are going to be now good to go to the end. Cody Richardson, though, still down and effectively out. It's a big shame for him. Right now, Jacob Bowen, he's got 161 laps on that thing. Kotzka, Isaacs, and Trevor Ryan, they've all came down at lap 174, so the possibility is still there that these guys can all make it to the end. This is your battle pack now for the win of the race.
Yes, it is, but we've got to remember here that here they go. Kotzka back up to the lead of the point. Bowen falling back down. This is where it's going to be with 12 laps to go.
And the reason why Kotzka, Isaac, and Ryan are into the point of this race, by the way, is because they took fuel only and left sides only. They did not take a full set of 4. Had they not done that, they would have been 5 seconds longer the pit stop window. They would not be anywhere near this front pack. Judd Danielson into pit road.
All right, more of them peeling off here at this point as here they go. Yeah, Danielson, Cushman down into pit lane. Ken Leong going to be able to try to close up behind here at this point. Somehow these Matt Spartan drivers able to get themselves back into the point here as everybody goes. Leong 9.7 seconds back. I think it's effective to say he is out of the chase for this win.
Danielson is into pit road as George Cushman will be in as well. And so 2 more drivers down. I think Cushman was one of the 2 drivers we were expecting to have to come down and into pit road. 10 laps to go this time by, and this race is on. Jacob Bowen is a potential underdog to win right up there with Jerry Isaacs and Andrew Kotzka, 2 drivers that have been up there from the get-go.
Yep, they've been up there the entire time, working their way by. That's Dalton Carter right now that they have to get around as they go. So going to see what he is going to be able to do. Here they come. He's going to stay out of the way. The 27 may pull back down onto the low line to try to see if there's anything to play. Not seeing any 2 wide through the rest of the field. Don't expect to see much of it later here on until we get maybe a couple of laps to go.
Andrew Kotzka still leading the way. It'll be 9 to go. This time by, we are into the single digits, and what a race it has been. Currently stands as that 86 car with the lead. Do you have a favorite, potentially, of this top grouping that might come out on top to win this race?
I mean, I've got to think that you're looking here at Kotzka. I think the sneaker may be Isaacs. That may be the one that you see here at this point be able to get a really good run to be able to play. But we will have to see exactly what is going to happen. I think there's plenty of time to be able to figure this out a little bit later on.
We would not be into overtime yet if we do get a caution flag. We would be able to still get about a 5-lap dash in to close this race out. So Kotzka, Isaacs, Ryan, Bowen, and Moore all tucked up in this main battle pack. And there's some cars that have effectively still yet come down. For the most part, all the drivers that have had to stop have made those stops. So we are now fully good to go all the way to the end of this race. Bowen is right up there with this leading pack. He is definitely going to be one of those drivers that is going to be charging in these last 5 laps to try to get to the front.
Yeah, he is going to be on a big move here at this point to try to see if he's able to get anything to go. But here they come down, 8 laps to go. Your contenders again, Kotzka, Isaacs, Ryan, Bowen. Who's going to make the push? The 45 of Ryan thought about going up to the high line, but dove back down again.
Here we go, 7 to go, and moving up to the top side. One driver going for it. Here we go. We're going to split traffic as Kotska goes up the middle, and he's going to take Jerry Isaacs with him. That lap car going to strike the wall once, then twice, and they're going to be able to get around him. But boy, that got risky for a hot minute. And Delgado going around. Caution is out with less than 10 to go.
Here it is. This is the chase to the finish. The 30, the 21, the 35, all involved in it.
Caution number 6 on the afternoon. They are still racking up in 3 and 4. Oh boy, kick this race off in overdrive. This is where it gets wild. Oh my gosh. And we'll obviously be able to get a look on what all happened. And looks like the 95 of Cook may have had a front row seat of all the carnage.
Yeah, very well might at that point. That looked like it was right there in front of him as it all took off in front. Let's take a look right now at the replay.
Oh, a bit of a checkup in the middle of the pack, and then just around goes the 30 into the wall, the 21, the 88, the 34 then pushes the 95 up. Looked like the 13 may have kicked this one off, possibly by getting loose down on the bottom side of the racetrack, and that just sent a whole host of cars around, and then unfortunately the 21 going to wreck again, I think, into the outside wall when he was just trying to turn that one around. And lock it up is the 9. Oh my word. That 19 car, he hit the wall, yes, but that could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, that could have been absolutely brutal there for the 19. Let's take one more look back at here at this point. The 95 just holding in behind as there is the incident. Ping pong around. 95 tried to lock it down. Oh, you got to feel bad for him there at that point of Kendon Cook. Did everything he could try to do to be able to keep out of that there at this point. Slowed it down, tried to pick the middle lane, and just got ping ponged.
This is going to be on board. Yeah, the 13, I think, tried to clear himself and just got hooked up. And then on board with Jamie Horn, who came flying in with a huge head of steam into this mess. And this is really late, mind you, so the caution is already out at this point in time, right? You still can't see the wreck. Now you see the wreck. Scrapes the wall, but I mean, that's not enough to damage the car. You're smooth sailing with that one.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you're going to be able to be okay there at that point and not have too much trouble.
Right, so we will restart. I'm thinking a 3-lap dash, and look at how many drivers are on the apron. That is a fuel-saving tactic. Taking that shorter line, putting the clutch in, as well as that, drivers, they are cycling also to the rear of the field. That's all the lap traffic getting down and out of the way. So they're combination of getting out of the way and also saving a bit of fuel on the apron while they're at it to make sure they have enough if it goes to overtime.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The one good thing in terms of that overtime finish here that we would be looking at is the fact that we only have one green-white checker, so it's not a crazy amount of fuel saving that these drivers are going to have to do, but it certainly is enough that you're going to have to be thinking about it.
Well, the race has been turned on its head. The strategy game out the window. It's now an all-out slugfest to the end. Bowen, we weren't sure if he would have 100% enough to make it to the end. We knew he was saving a lot of fuel. He definitely has enough now, provided this doesn't go to overtime. He might have to pit, though, if this does go to an overtime attempt, so I'm not 100% confident in all of this. Only 16 cars now left on the lead lap.
Only 16 cars left on the lead lap, and I hate to say this here for Jacob Bowen, but I haven't seen him be super aggressive and in the fight when he needs to be. He kind of got into that through strategy games, and I haven't seen the sort of ruthlessness that I need to see out of Bowen to be able to get himself into good position.
Lights are out. It's a 3-lap dash. Another caution puts us into overtime. So, holy cow. Hedge your bets, right? Who's going to be on top at the end? Because this could go any way at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it could go any which way. It could go sideways. We don't know. It is all up in the air.
Kotzka opting for the outside line for the restart. It's a bold choice, but it's a choice that has proven very, very effective before. So this could end up working out very well for Kotzka. Jerry Isaacs is down on the bottom side, though, and he's not a driver that's been known to give up positions without a fight.
No, he certainly hasn't. And now with this latest caution here at this point, Nolan, I've got to wonder if we're going to see another caution potentially come out as a result of it. Wouldn't be surprised if we get 2 for 2.
Oh, boy. So, Kotzka, Isaacs, Bowen, Ryan, and Keane are all going to be up in there with this one. I think I'm going to go with Jerry Isaacs on this one. I do believe Isaacs can get what it takes to get some momentum up. Primarily because Kotzka right now, his closest teammates, is 2 rows back and on the opposite lane.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a little bit difficult for him to do it. Jerry Isaacs has been in this mix the entire race long, but we've got 3 laps to decide how this is going to go. Nolan, let's go green.
7.5 miles left in the Cyber 500 as we fire back off into the restart zone, and immediately Kotzka jumps down low, gives the draft back to Jerry Isaacs.
Gives it back to Jerry Isaacs, Trevor Ryan, everybody moving down low here at this point. Corey Sherman going to be the last man standing up on the high lane.
Kotzka going to continue to run with his pack. Now, we're not going to see any moves, I think, from Isaacs until that final lap. He doesn't need to make any moves. The only time he's going to be jumping up to the top is if somebody behind him goes first.
Yeah, I think that's right here at this point. The question's going to be is if anybody decides to be able to do that here. Let's see if they go for anything here at this point. Waiting to see car down to the inside. We've got a caution.
Yellow flag number 7, and that puts us into overtime as Matthew Hall spins to the inside of the racetrack and will be now down and out of the fight. Back that one pretty hard into the inside wall. Take a look back at this one as this fell apart. Coming around in towards the back straight down the Daytona Superstretch, just came down across the nose of Hazel and spun that one to the inside. Now that was an admin thrown yellow flag, I do believe, as well, as he was way too far down to cause a yellow flag.
Yeah, way too down to be able to cross that there at that point. Admin wanting to bring that out here and make sure that everything is brought out. And so we will be finishing under a green-white checker. 1 green-white checker attempt, remember.
Only 1 attempt. And it's about to get wild at the World Center of Racing in the Sunshine State. So you've got yourself with a 2-lap dash to end it all. And we'll be back in just a moment as you watch the finale of the Cyber 500 on Green Flag TV.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
2 laps to go as we have entered overtime for the Cyber 500, and right now this race is kicking off in earnest. We are ready to get this show on the road, and I can tell you right now, it is going to be an absolutely wild night to be had indeed, as this pack gets set to rumble to life for the final time at the Daytona International Speedway. We only have one attempt, one more caution, we end this race under caution.
Exactly. So here we go as they come down the back straightaway right now. You've got to cinch up your gloves, cinch up your boots, get yourself ready to go here at this point. This is where it's all going to be decided.
Kotska once again opting to take the outside line, and I think the reason why he's doing this is because he can actually control it a bit better from the top, right? If he prevents them from trying to jump him on the restart, he can immediately get down low, and it stalls out that top lane almost instantaneously.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's exactly what he's thinking here at this point, to be able to go on and do this. But we'll have to see. Jerry Isaacs may know his strategy here at this point, so he may change things around a little bit.
Pace car will duck into pit road for the final time as Andrew Kotska takes this one into the restart zone. Green flag is out for the last time in the Cyber 500.
All right, he does the same move there, does Kotska, coming down to the inside line. Isaacs is going to be there. That's going to be the number 2, left out to dry a little bit up on the high side. Everybody filtering back down low.
So far, looking all clean in the back. There's a lot of cars at the tail end that are still side by side, but we will keep eyes up front as the 86 fires down the back straightaway for the penultimate time tonight. Jerry Isaacs in hot pursuit, but you've also got Trevor, Ryan, and Bowen setting up for a charge.
Here they go. Trevor Ryan looking like he's got a good run there. Bowen up to the high side as well. Here it comes down. If we get the white flag, that means the race will end on the next lap.
Drag racing out of turn number 4, back to the line. Trevor Ryan pulling out in front. He'll take the race lead with 1 lap to go. 2.5 miles left from Daytona.
And he has got that one, but he got a little bit of a squiggle there. He's going to get spun down to the inside, but everybody else stays clear.
Disaster for the 45. He keeps it off the wall. Big crash. The whole field falls apart over in turn numbers 1 and 2. Multiple cars sliding, slamming in.
There's more contact. The 2 has been spun out as well.
Bowen down to the inside now on the racetrack. He's got it back sorted. Now Jurgen jumps to the point as this is about the wildest of final laps. Jurgen's way out in front, but he's got no help, and he's a sitting duck for here comes Bowen and Finnemore. A drag race out of 4. Looks high, looks low. 3 wide. Finnemore onto the apron. Bowen trying to power through, but Jurgen will hang on for the win in the Cyber 500.
Jurgen will hang on to the win. Bowen second, Finnemore third. Your podium.
What just happened?
Oh my goodness gracious, I'm not even sure I know.
Well, let's start first and foremost with what happened coming down in towards turn numbers 1 and 2. As this just fell apart over here, Bowman, your pole sitter, got collected in the mother of all big ones coming through the first couple of corners.
Yeah, really and truly there. You just saw a little bit of a bad run there, and the whole field stacking up as a result of that mass carnage. Everybody trying to power their way on through, knowing that they were trying to get to the end. Look at that absolute calamity.
And then in the middle of the back straightaway, as you pointed out, then you had even more drivers get into this one here as, well, this is going to be another look. There was the 45 getting turned down to the inside, and Jacob Bowen had the race lead initially. The 86 car of Kotska was up there as well, and he got turned to the inside of the racetrack and went hard into the outside wall. That gave Jurgen the run he needed to power through and take the white flag. Let's ride on board with Jurgen.
Right. I mean, look at this. The seas are absolutely going to part here for Ed Jurgen as he comes on through. There you see the first car, the 45 going out. Jurgen actually backs off as a result of it, and I think that's what saved him, as well as that quick instinct to move down to the inside.
Then he sees the top 2 get wrecked. At this point, it's foot to the floor, and it's full send, baby. Catching up to the 2. Bowman was trying to block, and Jurgen took that car down to the inside, and from there, it was no contest. Coming through turn numbers 3 and 4, Finnemore tried to help him out, and they could have gotten him. They were running him down, but then Finnemore, I think, got greedy, as did the two. They didn't know where to go. That stalled the run, and that was all it took for Jurgen to hang on for the win.
Oh my goodness gracious. Just crazy end to this race.
Ed Jurgen burns it down on the front straightaway for the driver out of Mullica Hill, New Jersey, able to somehow take a win that came out of left field. And one of the drivers that we didn't think was in it to win it comes home. And he will just clinch that final lap at Daytona.
Absolutely remarkable stuff to be able to see Ed Jurgen get that to play. Brilliant finish here from Daytona.
No kidding, that finish was absolutely spectacular. We'll take a rundown now of your official post-race results here after a very wild night at the Daytona International Speedway. Taking victory by just 54 thousandths, it was Ed Jurgen ahead of Jacob Bowen. Coleridge Finnemore finishes in third, with Judd Danielson Racer in fourth. Trevor Ryan was in fifth. Andrew Kotzka was sixth. Dalton Carter was in seventh. Cody Meadows eighth. Justin Carey and Dan Keene round out the top 10.
Gary Isaacs, who looked like a front runner early on, finished down in 11th, followed by Ken Leong and William Kern. Gary Bowman and Corey Sherman round out your top 15. Connor Hazel was 16th, followed by Matthew Hall. Then it was Chris Wheeler, Cody Richardson, and Chris Letts, your top 20.
Greg Cushman finishes one lap down as well. Paul Turner was 2, along with Tom Richter, Eric Anderson, Christian Delgado, Jamie Horn, Kendon Cook, Dave Gainford, and Mike Donahue finishing 6 laps down. Jared Keimel, I think, was one of the first drivers, well, one of the last drivers to retire from this race.
Yeah, and then we move down into the drivers that had a very, very rough day out there. Matthew Croakey, Connor Dudick, Ray Wright, Ray Richer, Jason Dismore, Stephen Music, and Kyle Nadeau, your 36 car field.
Oh boy, I think that has been enough Daytona racing to last for a good long while here for the Cyber Thunder Racing League. We will now get the chance, of course, to talk to all of the drivers here at the end of the night that finished things out. And, well, we will look to get in touch first and foremost with your race winner here of the night, Ed Jurgen, joining us up here now in the broadcast booth after taking a shock race win tonight. Ed, you had the mother of all wreck avoidances on that final lap, and you were able to just barely come home and clinch that win with a bit of extra luck from second to third, checking up behind. Kind of walks through that whole last lap.
Man, that was awesome. I was getting some good pushes from my teammates back there, and yeah, I could say I closed my eyes and went through it, but I didn't. I just shot it down low and was hoping for the best. And then there was another wreck. I was pulling up on the 1 and 2 cars, and they wrecked each other again.
Overall, I mean, the racing itself, it came right down to the wire, and I know the strategy game was in full force up until that caution with about 7 laps to go. Kind of walk us through your strategy as a whole, because I know, at least for you, you are, I think, one of those drivers that was looking like you were going to potentially be in a bit of a class of your own right there in those last 20 laps, being able to cut out a whole stop.
Yeah, I had we had a group going, and I was surprised the other group was able to make it through, but we had that extra pit, and I had 4 teammates with me on the last run there, and we were just trying to run them down, and then that caution came out, and then we were able to get it right back.
And looking forward now, obviously going forward, I mean, it's the first big race of the season for the Cyber Thunder Racing League, and I know they have their own championships that they're going to be running all throughout the course of the season. Are you going to be running in any of those big seasons? And if so, what's going to be the overall goal for you?
Yeah, I'll be running in the trucks and Cup. Well, I mean, the first goal was always to make the playoffs, so we'll go from there. I switched to my teammates were messing with me. I switched to Chevy this year, and I get my first win with it.
Well, hopefully we will see you again potentially on the racetrack in the future. But for now, congratulations on the strong race win here in this one and taking one of the biggest prizes of the season. We'll see you whenever we see you on the track next.
All right, man. Thanks.
That was Ed Jurgen, the driver that took a very shock race win here tonight. We will move on down and we'll try to find Jacob Bowen, and there he is. It's the driver that finishes in the number 2 spot for the number 2 car. The driver you're touting on is an underdog to win. So close, and yet still off by 54 thousandths of a second. And, well, DJ, you are standing by with our runner-up.
I am indeed, Jacob. A fantastic race for you out there for the number 2 machine. So close to being able to take that victory, but you still got to be walking away feeling pretty good here at this point.
I mean, yeah, I feel pretty good. It could have been handled better. I mean, I didn't want to turn Trevor there, but it happens when you get to this kind of race and want to go.
Yeah, certainly. Well, talk to me a little bit about your emotions. When we were coming down to the wire there, it looked like you had set yourself up in a perfect position. Were you praying for a yellow, or were you hoping that it was going to stay clean and green?
I was hoping that it was going to stay clean and green until the end after that last pit stop. I knew that I had a chance to at least get a top 3 that way, but, you know, I'll take a top 2 after what happened.
Well, certainly, and I got to ask you, then looking forward, what does this pertain to for the rest of the year? You going to be able to carry on some good momentum from the rest of this?
We'll see. I certainly didn't make any friends tonight.
Well, sometimes you got to do a little bit of that to be able to get a good race, my friend. Congratulations on a second place, and we'll see you out on the track.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.
You too. All right, Nolan, that was your second place finisher there, Jacob Bowen.
And that will move us on down to our third place finisher of the night. We'll, again, see if we can't try to track down where Coleridge Finnemore is. And I do not there he is for Lounge Racing. Kind of missed over and glossed over him for just a moment. But it is the driver that makes up overall the third most spots gained on the afternoon for the driver of the number 80. Coleridge Finnemore will join us up here now in the broadcast booth. And well, Cole, I mean, it was a pretty wild race overall for you. You were up and down throughout the field all night long. Kind of walk us through the strategy that sees that number 80 car up in third.
Well, I had a strategy, and then I looked at it, and then I threw it out because strategy at Daytona never works for me from start to end. So my strategy was just kind of stay out of trouble. My Daytona track record here, it's not very good, so I just try and stay in pockets, try and stay out of trouble. So at the beginning, I would stay behind and not really get in the mix of things. And as the race went on, I was doing good. And then we had a little mix up there with, I'd say 20 to go, 10 to go, whenever it was. And little mistake on my part with a teammate. So I apologize to him for that. And yeah, then it was just on from the end. I had to get a caution because I missed a fast repair and got the caution I needed, which made a green-white checkered, and then all the tricks were on the table at that point. So it turned out well.
Kind of walk us through those final 2 laps because it was, to say it was a madhouse, especially entering turn 1 of that final lap, is a bit of an understatement. How did you survive all of the carnage to sneak away and take that third?
Yeah, I started on the outside lane, so I was kind of happy with where my selection was and knew the outside lane. If you get 2 or 3 guys on the top good, then that was the lane to be in. So I was happy with the outside, and we got a big run on the restart. And then just as we got going, the outside lane checked up, so I moved to the bottom, and I'm like, okay, I'm in a good spot here. And then there was an incident on the back straightaway, I think, and was able to stay in line, make up a little time, and then they wrecked going into 1. And I know staying in line when there's big wrecks here at Daytona doesn't make sense. So I thought my only shot was to jump on the apron, try and scoot around the bottom of the apron. Luckily enough, I did. And then I tried to push my teammate Jacob to the win, and just a little miscommunication between us. So still a good night for BTR Racing. Still 2 out of 3 on the podium, so that was good. But yeah, track record at Daytona is not very good. So to get a podium finish is well worth the 200 laps here.
Overall, it's been a very successful day for that number 80 car, and I know you've seen success in other series here for the Cyber Thunder Racing League. What's going to be the game plan, and what are some of the main accolades that you're going to be gunning for here in 2024?
Oh, I don't know. I'm kind of got stuff up in the air right now. I plan to run the Pro Cup series here. There's a lot of tough competitors there, so I'll throw my hat into that series again this season and try to take the championship. Came up a spot short last season, so we'll try that. Maybe dabble in the Tuesday and Wednesday night series as they're fun vehicles to run, so may do that, and then focus on my real professional racing outside of iRacing. So I got a busy 2024 ahead.
A busy 2024 indeed, and hopefully it will be the first win of many throughout the course of the first podium of many throughout the course of the season. But for now, congratulations on that third place finish and just sniping it on that final lap. We will wish you the best of luck and see you whenever we see you on track next.
Thank you guys for putting on the broadcast. Really appreciate it.
That was Coleridge Finnemore, your third place driver here in this one, joining us up here in the broadcast booth. And well, with that, DJ, that is about all we've got for tonight. But a wild race, I think, to put it very, very mildly. And there is a lot of time left to go as well, because don't forget, you got ASRL tonight as well. So at this point, what do we have to think about how this race went and potential final thoughts?
Well, I think here at this point, we just saw an absolutely fantastic run for this league, for this season. It is a testament to what can happen in good Daytona racing. I know I'm going to take a little bit of a break, save my voice a little bit, but we'll get into it, and we'll see you back here on the channel in not too many hours.
Hey, you and me both on that one. We're both going to be taking a break here for the next little while. I think we have well deserved it after a very wild 500-mile race. Of course, coming on up this Sunday night at 7:25 p.m. Eastern Time, the ASRL Next Gen Cup Series kicks off its second round of competition down at the Summit Point Raceway. You'll be able to tune in to all of the action right here on Green Flag TV. That and so much more coming on up. So we will see you guys all later tonight. And, well, we wish the Cyber Thunder Racing League, of course, the best of luck in their current season. And we'll see you all whenever we see you on track next. If you want to check us out at www.greenflagtv.com. See who we are and what we can offer you. We'll see you all tonight. Thank you for joining us here on this beautiful Sunday morning.